So since the state has to now provide all the necessaries for that infant, because why? The infant did die. The placenta died shortly after birth. So it was placed into probate. And once you, the man or woman, become 18, that trust is left dormant because you never claimed your inheritance properly.
Ah, got you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, got you.
Got
Okay, that
you a
makes sense.
headset.
I'm on my laptop right now. That's the only reason why. And the MacBook headset is finicky.
Yeah, well, the headset you're on now, you don't hear the echoing.
You hear the echo on mine right now?
No, not now.
Oh, perfect. All right, beautiful.
By the way, Quasi, how close are you to a decent truck stop?
Maybe 4 miles.
When you got some money that you can spare, go get you a Blue Parrot headset if you can connect it via Bluetooth.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I use. And you know I drive a truck and you don't hear all that noise, do you?
No, I do not.
Yeah, the Blue Parrot, I've been using it since the first generation, and now they're on the 6th. And it is one of the best headsets on the market. It's an over-the-head design. You can get one with a single speaker on the ear with a boom mic that comes around, but the noise cancellation is phenomenal. How's it going, Eric? Now, Eric, remember, he's the one you talked to, Cite Your Authority, about the territorial jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
And he explains it very well why they created these trusts, because you're familiar with the term retrocession?
No, I'm actually not. Can you please inform me?
Retrocession, in other words, when the land was ceded jurisdiction, if it is not used for its intended purpose, it goes back to the original owners.
Ah, okay. Gotcha.
That's a layman's definition of retrocession. Well, this country has been in a constant state of emergency because we have been in a constant state of war where we are bankrupt. And if the emergency ever ends without the settlement of the debt, the land gets retroceded back to its original owners.
Understood.
Now, that's what you was talking about when I first got on your TikTok, was the original owners.
Ah, got you. So, for anybody who doesn't understand, because they weren't there for the live TikTok that I was talking about, what I was speaking on was there was a Eurasian migration 15,000 years ago that populated the Canadas, North America, South America, and the Caribbean islands. Okay. Now, when Christopher Columbus started his expedition, the cargo that was on his ship was intended for East Asia, and then he mysteriously ended up in the Caribbean islands and South America. Okay. Now, aside from the point of the cargo, when Christopher Columbus got there is the real point where, how do I say this? The land was ceded to where Christopher Columbus was coming from, which was Portugal. Okay? Like, they weren't enemies in that sense. There was no Indian War or anything like that. That's just how I view the information that's being presented. Okay? But what happened was there was a migration that happened. Christopher Columbus came over. The land from what Christopher Columbus discovered was then leased to the land where Christopher Columbus came from. Okay, so this is what started the treaties between continents to some degree. Now, I know I'm missing, like, or I'm gapping information. There's a lot of specifications, and I'm kind of generalizing everything, but this is just for general knowledge that people can just look up and further their knowledge on. Uh, you get what I mean?
Yes.
And also, because you referenced jurisdiction with cite your authority, again, in the group, I did post if anybody is in the state, or sorry, on the state of Connecticut, and wants to, how do I say this? If anybody's ever heard of the aspect of appointing judges in fiduciary capacities, I posted the what's it called? The screenshots for the code of judicial conduct for doing such things. So if anybody wanted to do that, it's under Rule 3.8, appointments to fiduciary positions. A judge shall not accept appointment to serve in a fiduciary position, such as executor, administrator, trustee, guardian, attorney in fact, or other personal representative, except for the estate, trust, or person of a member of the judge's family, and then only if such service will not interfere with the proper performance of judicial duties. Okay? So the point is that if you want to do anything as far as appointment go, it has to be in a estate or trust matter. And if that's not being expressed, you can't do any appointments. And if you don't understand anything about estate law and trust law, I would suggest furthering your knowledge on that and understanding why your matter refers to an estate or a trust, so that you can better, how do I say this, inform the judge on why you're standing on your position.
Hey, that goes right into what I've been saying for a while. Is people out there teaching, oh, fill out the 56F form. I tell people, if it's not your name and your trust, what authority do you have to do that?
Yeah, I mean, as a registered agent, like Pastor was saying, you only have the authority to receive service of process and then forward it. And then what you do, how do I say this? As a forwarding agent, that's all your responsibility technically is just to receive certain things.
Well, not completely, because as the general agent, you have the authority on behalf of the name of the trust to go out and create these securities.
Now, we don't have the authorities to disobey the law, though, right? So, for example,
yeah.
Let me give an example, right?
Actually, you need to go back and read that contract that John Eric Roca put up, because remember, he talked about the repossession of the car, that they can violate the law when they do it. Now, why can they violate the law? Because they have a contract. You gave them permission.
Yeah. Yeah, so like if you want, like for example, a contract to get a license, like on a non-commercial capacity for like a passenger motor vehicle. What that pretty much is like a taxi on the private side. Okay? So when you do that, what you're telling the Department of Motor Vehicle is that you're going to be transporting private passengers and private property. Okay, so technically speaking, you're a motor vehicle for hire. Everybody doesn't intend to be that, though.
Right? No, they don't intend it, but through ignorance, they volunteer.
Exactly, but even still, when you look at the contract, the contract doesn't express everything that I'm talking about, but the contract is expressed through assumption. Does that make sense? To some degree, like for example, if I went to the Department of Motor Vehicles and I
I don't
signed.
think assumption is the right word. It
Wait,
is presumption.
yeah, presumption, right? So on the presumption that the Department of Motor Vehicles is a state agency or contracted with the state in some format, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone goes in there and thinks that they're receiving a driver's license in the form of state authority. And what I mean by state authority, I mean by republic authority, like lawful authority. But realistically speaking, that's a commercial authority that's contracted. Meaning
Okay.
that there is no lawful authority to authorize, like, a license is to do an activity. Like, you can't have a license if the activity is already lawful.
Okay.
All right. So you go to the Department of Motor Vehicles. Your assumption is that, okay, well, this is a lawful state agency, but people are misguided in the assumption that, well, if this was lawful, you would, like, there's no license that you need to walk. So why would you need a license to move your legs on a pedal? Does that make sense? And then you need to register with the Department of Motor Vehicles. People don't understand that that's a form of employment with the Department of Motor Vehicles.
Oh, speaking of Department of Motor Vehicles and licensing, check this out, Quasi. Here's the actual organization. It's an NGO that governs the licensing of all the states and the United States and Canada. Now you'll have to go through their documents. Let's see. They have documents on here that go through a lot of it. But this is the organization. Now, Derek Gonzalez, love him or hate him, he brought this to the attention of people on a Zoom one time. And I was like, first I heard of this. But this is the agency that, or the NGO that all the Department of Motor Vehicles are contracted with to get for you to have a license. And I think they deserve a little more research.
Gotcha. Most definitely. See, now, if anybody doesn't understand what Pastor's talking about, to a degree, we're talking about parent organizations or organizations that oversee the servicer companies that we're used to dealing with. Okay. So, what a servicer company, for example, would be is like if you walked into your local branch is considered a servicer company because they're a servicer company for a trust entity. The trust entity is usually either incorporated with the state or registered with the SEC. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
Now,
and every servicer is doing business on behalf of one of those entities. Like you wouldn't see like a conglomerate name like BMW unless it was his own franchise, which is very few and far between. But you wouldn't see conglomerate names amongst franchises. You always see it among subsidiaries, and the subsidiaries are attributed to a trust. Like what that would mean is like somebody who's using the name of a parent entity.
well, one of the things I've learned is if you look at all these big corporations, let's use AT&T for an example. You see a big corporation and you think it's this big massive corporation, and it's actually not. AT&T has a bunch of parts, and every single part is a separate trust under the parent trust. The parent trust is registered with the SEC, and they might have the smaller ones registered too. And this is how it works. The coupon is the government obligation. That keeps the corporation afloat. Okay? They take it to the Treasury pays for the coupon. But you also send a payment. What does that payment go to? That payment goes to the investment trust that has all the beneficiaries that have invested into it by buying the stock. That's why they get their dividends. So your payments are going to fund the stock market. And technically speaking, under the law, when you issued the note, you were a private investor. But again, you're not doing your accounting right to prove it. Now, Eric, are you there, buddy?
Brother,
Explain
that was
to
beautiful,
Quasi,
by the way. Good discussion.
Thank you, sir. Explain to Quasi about the emergency and why you only have a limited interest in the name and how the emergency applies to all of this.
Yeah, so here's the important part, and I'm going to preface it like this. You know, imagine you're asking your father for a pair of tennis shoes because, you know, you just, whatever, joined the basketball team. And you're like, Dad, you know, I've got practice, you know, I can make practice, but I need these $100 tennis shoes. And, you know, Dad's really busy, right? And you're pitching him this, hey, I need, Dad. Trustee, Dad, I need. But what you don't realize, and I'm going to precursor it this way, I'm going to fix up Dad in your mind of what Dad's really experiencing. Dad is actually standing in a puddle of gasoline and he's on fire.
Oh, don't say that to me, man. I just became a dad.
Yeah. And these children of his are walking up to him asking for sneakers. And they don't even acknowledge the emergency. And so Dad won't let them have sneakers. Not even if the game is tonight.
Wait, hold up. Can you please say that again? Because that was so beautiful. And that explanation.
Yeah, so these children are walking up to their father, the trustee, who is at the banking window. Their father is the bank. And the reason why is he's the trustee. And these children aren't even acknowledging the emergency, and they're coming up to father like he's smoking a cigar, drinking some cognac, enjoying himself. And what's really happening is this isn't just a ship. This is a submarine. And in fact, the conscripts, we lost so many men in the war that bad men are at the controls, but they haven't taken over the helm. But we've lost the complete ship. We've lost control of it.
Now, I'm not going to act like I know everything, and I don't know everything about ships. Can you explain what the helm is? I have no idea.
Helm is the actual control of the ship, because a lot of times there are personality types, and there are people like me who allow alpha males to go run off and do alpha things. And the thing about an alpha male is they need the pack. They need that back and forth. They need that intricate social. And men like me do not need that, because men like me are faith-based and are based on our own principle and do not need feedback at all. But in an emergency, men like me come out of the woods. and point. And what we're doing is we're saying, alphas, follow me. And if they do not follow, they are either eliminated or they don't make it. And the reason why is because men like me don't have those clicks. But men like me are in charge of protecting the trust.
Understood. And I understand exactly what you mean by what you said.
Yeah.
It's like
And
there's
it's an epic.
even amongst alphas.
Yes. And it's something called the Sigma male. Yeah, and I'm a Sigma male, but I'm an empathic Sigma male. And so I feel everything that everybody feels because of my life experiences have been very extreme. And so I comprehend what it is to be hurt. I comprehend all the positions. I get it. I have the empathy for it.
It's kind of like being all the zodiacs and then the 13th.
Correct. Yes. And in fact, my zodiac matches the Sigma profile.
Now think about it. Go back to the Declaration of Declaration of Independence, whatever you want to call it.
A declaration.
That was the Declaration of Trust.
Yes, it was the first trust expression. Correct. And a declaration. And that's why I'm able to do this, because I was taught by the native people, my UCC, and then I was taught by masters business, and then I was taught by masters and I studied for over 10 years on the founding fathers' works, and I co-wrote the founding fathers what do you call it, concordance. And so I know what our founding fathers did, and I see it in the pleas of the Federalist and Anti-Federalist papers. And the reason why is because the problem still exists today, and that's why we went into world wars, and we're still having this problem. But I see it as a biblical problem. I see the culling as this incestual problem we have with the Nephilim, and the existence of these Nephilim that are in alpha male positions. Does that make sense?
Even with all that, they created a trust, and and take it to, what does the Bible say? That God raises kings and brings kings low. Okay.
Yep.
He raises governments and brings them down. Why? But God, when He raises them, He tells you, look, these are the rules. If you do this, you'll be prosperous, long life, etc., etc. But if you do this, you'll be destroyed, right? So they tell you the rules on how to protect the trust, but nobody wants to read the rules. So the people that are in power know the rules, and they want to control it 100% and cut you out of it. So they don't want you to have your interest in the trust. There's multiple people that have an interest in the trust. You just have a small portion. But your job as the agent, per se, depending on what type of agent you want to be, you have the right to express that agency. But your ultimate job is to protect
I got kicked. I don't know what. I'm back, guys.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe the reason why the culling is happening is because it has to.
Yeah.
And I see it. I'm like, oh, no. And the way I look at it is, if you can't make a valid claim, the way I look at it in my life and with my faith belief, I believe that you will be exterminated.
Hey, I saw
if you cannot make a valid claim.
I saw somebody say this about the jab or the vaccine one time, and they said, what if the vaccine wasn't to get rid of everybody? What if it was to get rid of the sheep? In other words, those people that cannot think for themselves and just follow whatever they are told are being destroyed.
Exactly, and I call them the goats because the real sheep are God's people, but we've got goats mixed in with the sheep. And those are those bad alpha males. Because if you've ever met a goat, if you've ever worked with a goat, you know exactly what I'm talking about, man.
Mm-hmm.
And so I look around and I see these people, and if they cannot describe their value and their claim, their inheritance, then they are finished.
Oh, I'm glad you said that. Claim their value, right? I asked you earlier, have you been hearing about that reparations discussion out of California?
Yes.
Do you know, Hannah brought this to my attention today, and she's going to go find me the videos on it as soon as she can. But they were talking in this thing about your weight in gold. And I said, wow, we just discussed that the other day with the birth record. It gives you how many ounces, how long, all those weights and measures. Are you worth your weight in gold? And it was like, they're discussing this on this reparations discussion. And the way it's set up, it appears that it's not a court hearing, it's a mediation almost. I can't wait till she finds those videos and sends them to me.
And the crazy part about all of this is you have to do it in English. You have to do it in English.
I don't have a problem with English.
Yeah, well, most people are illiterate. That's what I'm saying. Like, literally, most people are illiterate. Yep, they can't form a sentence. They can't form a thought. And this is way too complex for those people. This is way, and it's set up that way so that when you do mess up, that the trustee has got full charge now. And again, that trust still exists. It will go dormant until someone in your distant future gets the eyes to see and the ears to hear from the Creator, and they go claim it, and they go enunciate it with wet ink by their own hand, and they humble themselves before God and all men. And that's what these men are having problems with, is because you have to humble yourself in front of God and all men. And I have no problem, because being a Sigma, I don't care what other men think about me. I just think about my God looking at me and my wife looking at me. That's it. And so this is a bleak future for people who do not put forth the most tremendous efforts.
And I heard somebody say that those that don't understand the system will hate it. Those that understand it will love it. And I'm going to tell you what, the more I learn, the more I realize that's a true statement. This system was not set up to be this evil thing that the majority of people are making it out to be. It's actually fairly neutral.
And the only thing that
bad people running it right now. I won't name no names in DC, but it's still.
Yeah, and the only thing that's extreme right now is the emergency. They had to do a few things more extreme.
Yeah.
That's all. Because of the emergency, they just had to lock it down just a little bit more. And that's what people are angry about. And they see such militants. And that's what people are like, they're so militant. Well, guess what they're trying to protect? They're trying to protect the trust. That's why there's police in the courtroom, because they're trying to protect the trustee.
Absolutely.
And they're trying not to, and you ready for this? Mm-hmm. And they're trying to protect the trust from the attorneys. Because few attorneys know about the trust. and know the intricacies. This is
Wait.
why judges go to their special schools,
Wait.
and this is why clerks go to continuing education in private class.
Hold on, wait. Cite your authority. I have a question for you. Do you believe that the police in the courtroom are there for the attorneys and not there for the quote-unquote defendant?
They're there for the trust.
They're there for the trust, yes. And
That's
what
it. Not the attorney, the trust.
No. They're there for the trust, but they're there for the violation of the trust.
Yeah, for the violation of the trust. Yeah, it is called breach of trust.
Yeah, breach of trust, and that's usually supposed to be done by the attorney if you know how to appropriate your position.
Now,
anybody can call breach of trust. In fact, it's necessary in equity that all people, if they see an issue, make light of it and give knowledge to fix it. Because you don't attack anybody in equity. Because it's about doing business, straightening the trust. It's about making the books of the trust correct. It has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, it's a non-adversarial proceeding.
Exactly, non-adversarial. Perfected, yeah.
But have you seen the video, Bankruptcy and Revised, Article 9, Part 1?
I don't think I've seen the video. Go on.
I know I've talked about it numerous times.
Yep.
In part of that video, they talk about that revised Article 9 of the UCC was to make it easier to seize the property of the trustee. And they all giggle.
Now, here's a weird thing that people don't comprehend, is you're also a trustee in one or two or several of your positions. And that's the hardest for people to wrap their head around. You're actually playing about 12 hats.
Well, it depends on how you go in, because I don't agree that you always are the trustee. Because
no. You are the trustee of just an explicit. And this is how. Yeah, this is the key to it all. You have to be a trustee. You have to be a trustee, or you will not be in charge.
Well, to be in charge.
And why? Is because how do you get there?
Yes,
how do you get there if you're not a trustee?
Yes, to be a trustee. Yes, to be in charge, you have to.
Yep. Of what interest?
But
of what interest?
But hold on. When you go into court, it is not in the role of trustee. It is in the role of trustee de santort.
Yeah, I completely disagree.
You can. The reason why I say it's trustee de santort, short layman's definition is, you're using another's property to their detriment.
No.
That's what
I disagree, because it's your property, but it's not registered with you, it's registered with the state.
No, it's not your property.
Your biological property is your biological property, because there would be no estate without something biological existing.
You have interest in it. Yes. You have interest in it. And here's why. Because conscripts can sink the ship. And so the trustee has to have full ability to take care of the conscript. That's why you are only trustee of a very particular interest.
Now, is the interest estate or trust? That makes a very big difference.
What the trust is, the trust is, it doesn't differentiate. The only thing the trust differentiates is it's a trust, and it's a collective trust between America and Britain.
No. Wait. Can I ask this question?
Yeah.
Is the public trust federal or state?
Federal.
Yeah. It's both.
Thank you. Just wanted to clarify for everybody.
Yep.
The public trust is a federal trust.
Yeah.
It's not a state trust. You cannot express that on a state level.
And everyone's running to be a state citizen because they think that the state trust is it's hilarious to me.
That's why I kind of brought that up to a degree, because it was just like, well, there's no public trust on a state level, because the states join the union for a public trust aspect.
Yeah, because they created the federal government.
That's why I
That
don't
was
believe in the
public
name
trust.
change, because that's why I don't believe in the name change, because it's all about you're controlling the interests, and you just need to know what interests are yours and what aren't.
How do I say
Now,
this?
And
Cite your authority and pastor. I have this question. Do you believe that if there would to be an amendment to a birth certificate, now from my research, this is what the only commercial part of the name is the last name, which would reference an estate. So if you did,
that's just not true.
you don't believe so?
I know so.
Okay, so explain, please. I would love to hear your information.
All right.
Inform me.
All right. So I want you to type in the chat.
Okay.
Okay. You've got three names, right? First, middle, last.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I want you to type them all caps. All the names, all caps.
Okay.
Tell me when you're done. Next line. I want you to just capitalize the first letter of all three.
Okay. Those are completely different entities.
Yeah. And then let's go to another one, something fancy. Let's do your last name and then your first and middle. But let's do them in all caps.
So last name.
And then
spelled in
let's do
proper
that
English.
same thing, but let's do that same thing, but let's just only capitalize one of the letters. And then when you're done with that, I want you to don't capitalize any of the letters and write those out. And what you're going to see is you're going to see a matrix of the way your name could be used.
Yeah, it's many names. You can use it without the.
Oh, yeah.
You can put a hyphen
And the
attached
trick
to
is,
first and last. I mean, first and middle, and have a given name. It's.
yeah,
you
so
can- Go ahead.
the trick is to comprehend how you control each one of them and what your position is on each and every one of them, and express that perfectedly with great mercy.
Now, I have this question. And do you also believe that within expression may come trespass?
Absolutely. Do not trespass on the IP. Don't trespass on the paper, because that's a trespass on the trust.
Perfect. So this is where your civil violations come from. This is where the citizenship
Yeah.
lies. Okay, this is where
Yeah.
the 14th Amendment kicks in, is when you establish the trust.
Well, no. It's different than that. No, 14th Amendment is a different kind of citizen.
Oh, please explain.
That's
Please.
another one. That's another
I get
interest.
completely different
That is
perspective.
just another interest.
I do agree with you on that. It is just another interest, but I mean interest in citizenship, not interest in property.
Again, that's a very narrow interest. Absolutely. And that interest means that you have accepted them as a trustee without expression.
Yes,
That means that you're a child. You're a child. You're an
to some
infant.
degree, that means that they can do with whatever the property they want to do or deem.
Yep, whatever. Yep, exactly. In REM, yeah.
Now,
They got the
now,
REM position. Go ahead.
Look at that. Go to that document I just posted.
Oh, I'm traveling, brother, so I don't have any kind of tool right now.
Okay.
This is the brain.
Here's the definition of trustee de santor. Okay. It says someone who, without legal authority, administers a living person's property to the detriment of the property owner. That's called trustee de santor. That doesn't mean you are the trustee. You are stepping on the rights of the trustee because the trustee is actually the legal owner.
Yep, so let me help out. You ready for this? You're not trespassing on one interest if you express that one. Now, if you expressed it in whole, of course you're trespassing on someone's interest. That's the key to this, is you need to know exactly what interest. or you're gonna trespass.
Now, I'm going to share something. If you want to see what he's talking about, when he talks about how many interests, okay, I'm going to go show you
Give them the
something.
printout, the page. This line is so long of how many interests there are, and out of that list, you have got to throw darts, hit the exact ones, and know exactly what to say about those. And this, how many pages was that, Bri? Was that 2 or 3 pages? Single spaced.
I'm only going to worry about the definition of what a securities is.
Oh, that's a good one. Yep. Where are you reading it from? Hold on. Where are you reading it from? Because this makes a big difference.
This was what I shared with you the other day. Federal securities.
Yeah. What's the authority on it?
The federal securities law.
Okay, just the law. Okay. Yep. I was wondering if you're reading out of the code.
If you look at the second paragraph, Quasi, if you load that document, okay, it says, and I want you to read it, and if you don't mind, read it out loud.
Yes, please.
Just the second paragraph. Quasi, are you there?
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I can now.
All right. Where did it go? All right.
I shared it in the group.
Yep, I got it. I got it pulled up. Where do you want me to read from? Second paragraph, the term security?
Yep.
All right. The term security means any note, stock, treasury stock, bond, denture, evidence of indebtedness, certificate of interest or participation in any profit-sharing agreement, collateral trust certificate, reorganization certificate, or subscription, transferable share, investment contract, voting trust certificate, certificate of deposit for a security, fractional undivided interest in oil, gas, or other mineral rights, any put, call, straddle, option, or privilege on any security, certificate of deposit, or group of index of securities, including any interest therein or based on the value thereof, or any put, call, straddle, option, or privilege entered into on a national securities exchange relating to foreign currency, or, in general, any interest or instrument commonly known as a security, or any certificate of interest or participation in, temporary or interim certificate for, receipt for, guarantee of, or warrant or right to subscribe to or purchase any of the foregoing.
Okay, stop right there.
35.
Now, when he's talking about your interest, you see how long that list could be? That's just on that one. Every one of those, when I look at that paragraph, I look at that same as a bottle of ketchup. The ingredients on a bottle of ketchup, whatever the biggest ingredient is first, right? Then the next most amount is the second ingredient in the list, right? That's how they list ingredients on a food package, right? Now,
It's called
go back to the first line. Means any note. The note is the biggest thing because what did they do in 1933? Then it goes to stock market, treasury stock, bond, treasury stock, well, what do they send to the Federal Reserve? Hey, do you want to buy these treasury stocks and bonds? We need to print more currency. And then a debenture. Now, what is a debenture? A debenture is a type of security that has no lien. It is only based on all the future earnings of that certificate. Is that what the birth certificate is a debenture? That's what we call taxes. It's based on all the future earnings. So what interests do you have and how do you express them? That's just a list of securities. And look how many times it tells you interest in that one paragraph.
The way I see it, guys, is that if we go to Frederick's paper, that's something I would recommend for everyone to read in the Federalist Papers. I posted it on Cite Your Authority Law and Equity, and I might have put it in Basilicos. But definitely go grab it and repost it again, guys, or forward it to Basilicos. And on the post, it's a PDF, and it's got a quote that I stuck on the PDF in Telegram. Cite Your Authority, Law and Equity.
I just posted it.
Okay. Now I want you to read that quote. Someone can read that quote, please.
What quote? Which one? Where's it at?
The one that I posted on the PDF of Frederick's PDF.
Do you know what page it is?
Oh, no, it's the actual post. I think it's second page, or I don't know. It's down, but it will. If you see the quote that I posted, you can go into the instrument and see where that was. And what it is it's a quote from him talking to the legislature on how to lead men, how to govern men.
Lead men.
Yeah, and how to govern men. I think that's what he said, govern. And it's a pitch to the legislature. So in that, you can just look for, yeah, it's down. How long is that instrument? How many pages?
Oh, it's long.
Yeah. So it's down. I think it's down in the first, gosh, I can't remember.
Let's see. I'm trying to find what your post was.
Yeah, so let me help here. Here, love, would you jump on that here?
Did somebody just posted it? Yeah, there it is. It says, under these circumstances. Somebody read that. Somebody shared it. Would somebody please read it? Because I'm driving.
So, did you find it, brother?
Yes.
Wonderful.
That's why I asked for somebody to read it.
Yeah, me too. I need someone to read it because I don't have the ability.
Okay, which part again did you want read? Sorry, I'm doing dinner prep, so I can help.
Yeah, the JE just posted it in the group.
Okay, do you want the whole thing read?
Yeah.
No,
That's
just
it.
that little
Yeah.
paragraph right there that was posted.
Okay.
Yep,
so
under these circumstances.
Yes. Under these circumstances, it is obvious that the springs of government are slack. Give them a new tension, and the evil will be cured. Think less of punishing faults and more of rewarding that which you need. In this manner, you will restore to your republic the vigor of youth. Because free people have been ignorant of this procedure, they have lost their liberty. But if the evil has made such headway that ordinary governmental procedures are unable to cure it, then resort to an extraordinary tribunal with considerable powers for a short time. The imagination of the citizens needs to be struck a hard blow.
And we are in extraordinary times in this emergency. And what they're doing is allowing people that have solutions to our problems into the trust. And those people only.
Yeah.
Now, you could get there from common law. You could do your procedural stuff. And yes, you can have, your hits and misses. But you'll never get to that trust. Ever. Unless you have a solution for this problem.
My personal opinion, my theory on part of the solution. Am I going to say it's the whole solution? No. Part of the solution is we can't get rid of the national debt if the government can't balance the books. And why can't they balance the books? Because we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing so the trustees can settle the debts.
There is no law that says you have to perfect your chattel paper and turn it in.
Yes, but reading the congressional record of March 9th, 1933, they said what? It's their obligation. Well, if it's their obligation and you're sitting around claiming it's yours, running up the national debt, and you're not letting the trustees balance their books, how do you think $30 trillion is going to ever go away?
Yeah, and they call that trading with the enemy.
Yeah.
And why? And they changed it because in 1939, the Trust Indenture Act. Don't you see this, guys? They did the emergency, and then they were like, okay, stuck it in the trust and adjusted that, and they're like, oh my gosh, we're having problems with these lawyers.
The obligor under the Trust Indenture Act of 1939, the obligor has to produce the trustee. Well, who never shows up in court?
The real man.
Who's the obligor?
Oh, yeah. Who doesn't show up in the court? Yeah.
The obligor is the trust.
Yep. Oh. That's a whole nother talk.
The trustee
no one shows up. That's the reality. No one shows up. No one shows up.
You go into court and they say, how do you plead? Well, is it your name? No. How are you making decisions for the trust?
Our founding fathers had an average of 16 years of schooling in the 1700s. Ask yourself, how much do you have in 2022?
Oh, yeah, we've seen some of those reports of math tests back in the 6th grade in the late 1800s compared to what they teach today. Night and day difference. That's why when you get out of school, that's why I say it's still our fault, because why? We made other things important. We decided, for me, when I got out of high school, I started chasing women, drinking beer, doing all these things I shouldn't be doing that I did, that I didn't care to learn what my rights were. And most all of us, we got fed up with the system and how we knew things were not right. We just didn't know why. But a lot of us are still pointing the finger at government, saying it's their fault when we don't even understand why it works the way it works. I mean, what if I told you for the most part they're in the right?
Yeah, and the way I look at it is it's like on a submarine, there's a section in the submarine that is off limits to most, because that knowledge is so classified that it would breach the trust. And that is how our system's set up because of this emergency, that there's extraordinary measures. I mean, listen to Frederick. He called for an extraordinary tribunal. What the hell does this look like? Sure looks like an extraordinary tribunal to me. We've got police officers in the courtroom. That's extraordinary.
Police officers everywhere.
Yeah, it's extraordinary.
And we know it's all under the federal because why? Look at the national flag. The national flag is in every courtroom, just about every governmental building, and it's under the war powers of the president.
Yeah, and it's a collective because that's, if you read the Constitution, that's why states can't, do things such as, emit bills and other stuff like that. States have already agreed they can't do that because they've allowed the trustee to. Yeah, the states don't own, they're not the owners. That's what people don't comprehend. The states aren't the owners because it's a trust. The trustee owns it. We get to use it for the intents and purposes set up in the trust. And if we don't, then retrocession could be imminent.
Yeah. Let's see here. Quasi fell off. He has that happen at times. And
Get back.
Okay. And Alce, you asked a question about, well, Alce isn't even there. So I know we've laid out a lot. Anybody got any questions?
Yes, I always have questions, and I don't want to interrupt others, though, when they have questions. So I will ask very briefly and then hit it back to you guys. I'm absorbing and taking all this in. I really appreciate everyone sharing. I guess my question would be, there does seem to be a sense of urgency for many of us to get up to speed for how to actually do what we need to do then, to exercise our position as agent, to learn what that looks like. Any guideposts, or are there going to be any kind of classes or anything offered where you guys want to share this to help people, then help other people really bring them up to speed? And obviously we're going to share it with people who want to operate in honor. It's not, we realize this may not be for everyone, but that would be my question.
It's definitely not for everyone. That is a true statement.
Yeah. Yep. So I guess just to throw it out there to just say, hey, what's the best way for those of us who want to do this for the right reasons to get up to speed and start doing the things?
Well, one of the things I recommend is this book right here, and you've heard me recommend it. And that is Gilbert's Law Summaries, Agency Partnerships and Limited Liability Companies. I'm uploading it to the group now. It's posted numerous times, but it starts off
Gilbert
talking
only
about
served me.
agency.
Yeah, Gilbert's is awesome. It has only served me. And if you jump on Basilicos, I set you guys up with all of them, all of them, and you can figure out what book that your interests are and follow your interest, because if you follow your interest, you're going to learn better and faster. And then once you get into that mode of your interest, then you can start asking, hey, can you nudge me in a more clear direction? But you should run down your interest.
Now,
And what I'm going to do is
well, yes,
go ahead, Bri.
yes, I agree with what you're saying, but I look at it the same way I do if you're teaching the Bible. I mean, you start with a foundation, and like a lot of people, when somebody is newly saved, they say, okay, first thing you should read is the book of John. And then from there, go where you want, or they say from there, go read Romans, and they direct them on what path to take. Me personally, that should be your first one, is learning the principles of agency, because everything branches off of that. If you're going to be the trustee is an agent of the trust, that if you don't have the foundations of agency grounded, and then you move into the trustee role, the trustee role is going to have additional principles and rules that will compound on top of agency. If you're going to be the executor, there's going to be a different set of rules. If you're going to be in any certain position, that you will sign your name in that capacity, the agency is the foundation. And from there, everything starts branching out from there.
Well, I appreciate that you guys do have it, a lot of that information in the files. I just today I received the book because I'm very old school. I need the physical thing in my hands to really study it well. And I know I could print it off, but then that ends up being this huge thing. So I just got the book. I have started just in the very beginning with the appendix and going through the glossary of terms and all of that. So, but I
want to comment on that to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to comment exactly to that. You guys are going to fail in paper. And the reason why is because it's just too big of a process. I love paper. It's one of my all-time favorite things to do is read a book. I would never be here preaching and teaching if that's all I did. And the reason why is because you need to learn the key words that have force and effect in law. You need to find out where those words are used and read how those words are used, because there's only about 100 to 150 words that you need to know as a core.
That's a good point.
As a core.
Pastor was mentioning something about that earlier.
What's that?
Pastor was mentioning something about that earlier. Well, there's only about 2.5 pages long of the terms that are used in law.
Yeah. So
No. I said it was 2.5 pages of dictionaries.
yeah, of dictionaries.
Oh.
Yeah. Of sources. Yeah, that's why I said, so this thing is so large. It's so large that and I recommend everybody pay for Adobe. Pay for the monthly subscription for it. And it is worth it. And the reason why is because of the advanced search engine. It's not like everyone's search engine. The Adobe Advanced Search Engine is very powerful. And it's the only one I recommend because it's the most easy, because Adobe is what the government uses to publish. So therefore, it is the only one you want to use. It's that simple.
Now, when he's talking about keywords in the codes or statutes, you will find a word or phrase in parentheses. Explain that to him.
Yeah, so to have force and effect, it's something that's called a restatement of law. And the restatement is just a future ongoing thing to adapt new style and new words. And so the words change. And so in their new publications, they'll have these words that are really explicit and they'll have them in quotes. And that's the key to comprehending, is that these particular words are the ones that have force and effect in Law and Equity today if it's a current citation. And that's where most people get things wrong, is because they'll pick up any citation and be like, oh, this is a great word. No, it's not. No, you have to go to the year 2022, find out what the regulation said the word is for today for that particular use. And what I tell people is, in every law or title, there is something called general purposes. Under general purposes, there's a title called definitions. And those definitions are how they describe how they use it in law. Not what Black's Law Dictionary thought, not what Webster's thinks. It's how they decided to use it for that exact title. Not for any other title, even though it could be the same. It's explicit to the title. And that's why I say it's difficult to do this problem, because you have to go to the exact sources, get the exact language, and know what you're doing with those words. And how the attorneys do it is they print law books for attorneys, and they're actually called manuals. And the attorneys aren't so smart. In fact, they're not smart at all. They're not intelligent at all, most of them. And therefore, they continuously rely on their manuals to tell them what to write.
Now,
I just gave you some huge info.
Yeah, the government has a governmental styles manual. You got the Chicago Styles Manual. You've got most every single state has a bill drafting guide that tells the legislatures, who happen to be attorneys, how to write the law. If you really want to get to where you're good at this stuff, you got to read those things. Because if you get to writing your documents according to how they write the law, you're going to be writing law. And not only that, those go back to what we were saying about the definitions. There's a hierarchy to defining the legal mechanisms. First, the legislature has the right and the authority to define the law. They have the right to define what that word means to them in their application. So when you go to the law first, if it is not defined in the law, then you go to the legal dictionaries. If it is not defined in the legal dictionaries, then you go to the dictionaries of the common people. That is the hierarchy of how the language comes down to its meaning. And don't be afraid to use etymology, because even if it's defined in the common people's language and not in the law, you should know where that word comes from and what it originally meant. That's why etymology is so important.
I recommend starting in Deuteronomy 6, because Deuteronomy 6 is this calling out for what you are to do. And most people are like, oh, that's silly. And I'm like, yeah, you're silly.
Yeah, because
this stuff is of old. These processes are of old.
Yeah, 93% of the Declaration of Independence, Constitution, and Bill of Rights comes from Deuteronomy. It's either a direct quote or an indirect quote from the book of Deuteronomy. And it just drives me crazy when people disregard the Bible because they say, oh, it's a religious book. If it is, fine. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because it's more than just a religious book. It's also a book of principles. I mean, what is Proverbs? Proverbs is nothing but principles. And if you read a chapter at night, it's 31 days worth of principles.
Well, I have a question in regards to like the law manuals and the dictionaries and how they define and all the definitions and everything. I guess from a simplistic standpoint, what I would like to know is, it sounds to me like they make it complicated. Why does it need to be so complicated to have to continually be updating manuals and doing all these things?
Times change.
And remember, guys, we're in an emergency. Duh. This is so complicated. And the reason why is because the attorneys took over. They took it over immediately.
So back in 1800, whatever.
Oh, yeah, 1776, 1789. Yeah, those dates.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
That's why and they hid it from the attorneys. They hid it from everybody to protect the trust, but they had to publish it. They just made it difficult to pull all the pieces together. They didn't put all the eggs in one basket. They divided the eggs and stashed them. And then even if you collect all the eggs, you still can't get to the trust because it's about discernment. If you don't present properly with your authorities, then you don't get it. They get to make the decision, not you. They do. And the funny thing, if you read the code, it says you have to actually cite your authority to do what you're doing. And that's a whole nother key of the thing. You can get it all right. What gave you the authority to do it?
Right. Hence your name. So
I mean,
I love it.
I don't see it as difficult. I see it as when you get some fundamental principles down pat, it really starts to become easier.
It does. It does.
But the problem is, the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know.
Yep.
Well, and I would say I think that's probably where a lot of us who are new to all of this are sitting, is that it seems overwhelming at the moment because we know there's a lot we don't know. So we're trying to get that foundation laid so that then we can start doing the layering and figure it out.
I say to repent, and the reason why is because you're going to be angry at yourself for wasting so much of your life on pathetic things when you come into the light. And so one of the first things you need to do is repent and forgive yourself and ask God for forgiveness so that you can move forward and accept his promises. Because that's what this is about. This is about accepting the promises that were already promised to you and doing it in a graceful and humble way. So start with yourself and realize that all of this is your problem. And you have a solution out there. As soon as you say it's my problem, you get to solve it. Otherwise, other men are going to be solving your problem for you. I yield.
And if other men are who you have to answer to, you're never going to be free. Not that I like the word free, but you understand what I'm saying. Because free is actually a misnomer. It truly doesn't exist anywhere in nature.
Yeah,
everything has a cost.
Yes, I appreciate what you guys have shared, and I comprehend it. And it's a perspective shift and taking different actions shift, I guess.
Now, ST, I know you're new at this. Don't feel bad. When I first started, it took me 6 months. And my studying over 6 months was 1 or 2 weekends a month because I drive a truck for a living. And some weekends I got to rest because you got to rest. The Bible says you should rest for your mental health and physical health. So it took me 6 months of part-time studying before I wrote my first court paper. And it didn't even look like a court paper. It looked more like a business letter. I didn't get nowhere with it, but that's what it looked like. Now, I'm a lot better at writing court papers. Now I can put the caption on it. I've actually wrote a 156-page brief one time, And some attorneys told me, he said that the attorneys in that county said I write better than most of the attorneys up there. And I also use tools. I use things like Grammarly to check my grammar. And don't hesitate to use these tools. We're human. We're going to make mistakes. You know, so do what?
Brother Brian, I'd like to add one more thing. That OPM manual
Yeah.
that I sent to everybody, I suggest everybody reads that from top to bottom. And the reason why is as you're learning other things and as you're learning about the law of agency, having a manual like that is really helpful to see how, just how the attorneys are doing this and the process. And so this young lady, if she's interested truly, I suggest that's one of the first things to master. And I mean it. I really mean it. And it's only 100 pages. It's only 100 pages. 137 pages. That's it.
Handbook for attorneys on court-ordered retirement.
Yeah. Wow. It just has a lot to do with everything, doesn't it? Well, because what you're going to realize, there's a couple different statuses. There's an insured status, and there's another status. What do you think the United States citizen is? What kind of status is this citizen? What kind of status? And this is what's so awesome about this handbook. It'll help you wrap your mind around. There are so many different systems in one system. But this thing follows all the style and all the particulars, and it's a great learning mechanism.
Yeah,
and it's
status,
pertinent for what we're doing.
Now, don't mistake it that status has anything to do with citizenship. It has to do with competency.
Right, and I
absolutely correct. Competency. That's the only thing it is competency.
Yes.
So if you're a U.S. citizen, if you're a U.S. citizen, you're a ward of the state because you're incompetent.
Right, and you know that I and several others in my circle are coming off the DLS Bobby Straight train. And so we are having to completely reorient ourselves in many ways. So,
well, at least you got out. At least you got out, because a lot of people live, breathe, and die by those people.
Right. Well, look, that's thanks to you. You were on Derek's channel and chat. And I just consider it providential that I and several others within my circle heard you that night. And that's why we're here now.
And I want to let you guys know, yesterday I went on to a Zoom call and everybody is rushing over there.
Yeah, he was breaking up, Eric, if you can hear me.
Oh, there
you are.
Yeah, but I saw all these people run to these rooms yesterday, and all of them are wrong. They're not principled. They're not principled. They're breaking principle. And I got on and spoke, and those holy men didn't want to hear what I had to say. And all I did was tell them a principle. That's why they're wrong. And I gave them a principle that negates everything. And they couldn't even latch on to the principle. And there were 120 people on that call for 8 hours yesterday. And they're all going in the wrong direction. It's amazing to me.
Thank you for that. And I'll tell you one person who was appreciative of you being there, and that was my husband. By that point, I think by the time you came on, I had already gone to bed. And I just told him, I'm like, there is nothing of value here for me. If you want to stay on, great, but I'm out.
Yeah, those people. And what's wrong is they're not principled. They're not applying the principle, and they're not.
Yeah, he broke up again.
Because I studied it. I taught it. And I gave all my information to those men. They have what I have. But the only thing they don't have is the truth, and that I have. The eyes to see, because I asked God to show me, because my intent is to lead God's people. My intent is not to rob the trust.
Well, look, I've heard the phrase over and over, and I believe it 100%. The principles of law are few and never changing. The methods are many and are fluid. The problem is everybody's concentrating on the methods and not the principles. And if the people would change their mindset to concentrate on learning the principles, you can develop your own methods.
It's about your...
And developing your own methods is what they want to see. When they see templates, they know you are unprincipled. They know you don't know what you're doing. That's why they also tell you, I'm pretty sure it's in IRS Publication 901, that you're not even supposed to be using their forms. You're supposed to be creating your own. Because if you're not wanting to be in their system, don't use their stuff. But give them the ability to do their job for the account you carry in your pocket. That's just the way I see it. I mean, me personally, I don't mind seeing other people's work that I respect, because no one man knows all the law. We all know bits and pieces. I like looking at what Eric works on. Why? I think he's smarter than I am. He's been at it longer than I have. And he's going to bring something to the table that I don't know. And that's why iron sharpens iron. We're supposed to come together to build each other up and bring to the table what we have to offer, but we have to be humble and teachable in the process.
See, and I use the teaching method to perfect my style, to perfect my presence to them, so that I can articulate every exact thing that I need. And they really appreciate that. They love the communication.
Explain it what you said. I think it was 2 days ago. You said how you write, was you write it like you're writing it to yourself? What was it you said?
Oh, yes. So what I do with students that I teach, I tell, most of the stuff, I'll have them send the letter to themselves. And the reason why, that gives you the student enough time. And then what they're going to do is they're going to receive it, and they're going to play the trustee to themselves. And that's something, I'm going to continue to preach and teach. But right now I'm working on in my office. And as soon as I get it done, and it's fairly close, I am going to put and develop some classes, probably 10 to 15 classes that I'm going to do in private for donations, for gift, for serious people. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because what I have to offer is very serious, but I have to give it to the right hands, and I need to be able to have that daily with you, have that guidance, and have that trust with you, that this is not about the procedure. This is about competency. And this is about how you carry yourself and how you speak the words that are in the code. Not what the code says, but how you deliver those. And so the way I see it with my new eyes is that this is about ministries. This is about teaching and it, as a group, as a whole, because this is about practicing equity. Because that's what equity is. It's an actual footstep. And most people don't have that discipline. And the reason why I fell into it is because I joined the Marine Corps when I was 17 years old. And so I was immediately shown discipline, but I already had it because I grew up on a farm. So this discipline that is necessary is serious discipline. And it's a kind discipline too. And that's why I say, you know, when you decide this is a journey, this is not, oh, I've got everything ready to mail and I'm done. Oh, no. Because you have to perfect everything in the at-law position and then go present it in equity. And that's a big deal. Most people can't even perfect their at-law positions, let alone present it in equity. So this is a big process. It's a timeful process. Yeah, I yield.
I mean, I've heard people, and depending on the time you devote to it, will make the difference on how quick you become competent. Okay, because I've heard Yusuf El talk about it. He's been doing it for almost 20 years, and some of his stuff I don't agree with anymore. But the guy's pretty darn smart. I give him his credit. Okay, but he said on average it takes someone about 3.5 years just to get a basic competency, just to be able to stand. That doesn't even get into becoming the real expert, where you will, you know, because that's just the basics. That's just getting to where you can start attempting to speak for yourself. I mean, I know it took me a long time. So, does that help you out any, ST?
Yes, it does. And I know that there's not going to be any quick fix. And that's okay, because we've spent our whole lives not knowing what we didn't know. And even though the state national train was not the right one for us, it is what got us started on this. And really, even prior to that, it was just seeing what was going on in our local community and the battles that we faced, where there seemed to be no remedy for us. So it's all of those things, all those experiences combined that have led us to where we are today. You know,
You're
we
not
know
wrong.
that there are missteps along the way. We've definitely taken some of those missteps, but we're determined not to give up. And we're going to do this for as long as it takes to finally get us where we need to be to better our country and our community and the lives of our children and, you know, hopefully future posterity. We don't know how much longer time we have here in this world. We don't know how much longer this world's going to continue to exist.
I don't think we can save the country.
Yeah.
Only
Probably
thing
not.
I think, what I personally believe. Now, yes, I'm a believer. I'm a Christian, and I do believe in the Bible. That is my foundation. But from my studying of the Bible, not everyone is going to be in the Babylonian system. That some are going to come out of it. And I personally believe that those that are on this path like you, that there's going to be pockets of liberty that are going to be protected by the Creator. Those that stay in the system and continue to bump their heads against the wall are going to pay a heavy price in the end, because the system is going to eventually come after them. But those that figure out the rules, so to speak, are going to be able to come out. And even when the system comes after them, they're going to know how to handle themselves, and they'll be protected.
I hope so, because I know that it does not seem to bode well. Like, a lot of people are talking about creating this utopia on earth, and I, as a Christian, I don't believe that's going to happen before other more difficult times happen first. So, and that's why there is a sense of urgency on our part, not because we want a quick fix, but because we do feel like we're running out of time.
I think we are. I don't think you're wrong on that. I think we are in the last days. They're putting in the mark of the beast system, and everybody is flocking to it, called blockchain and cryptocurrency, like it's the answer to everything. No, it's not. And eventually the AI system will be put into control of that. And without it, you won't be able to buy nor sell nor do anything without it. That's why you'll have to get out. I mean, you've got people that are saying, well, that's my name and I want to collapse the trust. It's not your trust. Why are you trying to take something that's not yours? You're coveting. And the Bible says, thou shalt not covet. You're coveting something that's not even yours.
So another follow-up question with all that then is just, so what do you, I mean, with all these things and efforts we're making to try to better understand and how we should be operating, if that's going to be the end game anyway, are our efforts for naught, or
No.
is there going to be some benefit to it? Like, I guess that would be a question I would have, is just what is that going to look like, or how should we prepare for that?
Well, Lucifer, Jesus said that the God of this world is Satan, right? Call him Satan, call him Lucifer, it don't matter. He still has to follow the laws God put in place, right? Because remember, he can do nothing that the Creator don't let him do.
Right. Just like with Job, he was given ability and power up to a certain point.
And Boris, he says that what we're really in is the book of Job. Was Job destroyed by Lucifer? No. He was put through a test. All they're doing is testing you today. When you do something wrong, they put you to the back of the line. They never completely kick you out of the trust. And what happens? You go to the back of the line, you start over. When you come back up, you try again. Right?
Yep.
So Lucifer has to respect those rules God put in place. And I think he will. As much as Satan is the father of lies, he cannot violate your free will. He may trick you. He may set up on that stand in the courtroom and yell at you and scream at you and throw papers. He may do all these things to intimidate you, but he can never violate your free will. But if you don't know how to respond and how to handle yourself accordingly, that's where you'll get beat. Are you an honorable person or a dishonorable person? Are you going to let that man that puts his pants on the same way you do make you fearful, make you timid? Or are you going to be able to act in honor, for example? So, Your Honor, are you trying to intimidate me? I'm not sure what you're trying to do, but it appears that way. What's he going to say? He can't say yes, because then he's biased and he has to recuse himself. And recusing is a form of rebuking. Do you know how to rebuke him? When he won't let you speak in court, Your Honor, am I to understand if you're going to violate my right to freedom of speech? What's he going to say?
You're in contempt. I've heard that a lot, not towards me, but others.
Well, you look at him and say, I conditionally accept your offer of contempt, but since I don't work for free and you want me to perform, my fee is blah, 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 because the Northwest Ordinance forbids slavery. And if you're going to seize my property, then I deserve compensation.
Right. Yeah, that all makes sense. And I'll tell you, we definitely have a lot to learn about all of that, but we're not going to give up. We've already been involved with different court cases, not because we were the defendant, but because we went on the offense as plaintiffs. And when it came to a point where two other moms and I had to dismiss a case because we knew they were going to try to bury us in legal fees, our basically plea to the judge was, look, these school board members, they were violating the law. We brought the lawsuit forth because they wouldn't listen. They went into compliance, and so we're going to drop the suit because they have gone into compliance. And we basically said we're forgiving them of their trespasses. We would hope others would forgive us of our trespasses, and that's why we want to end this. So whether we knew what we were doing or not, that seemed to, be good enough for him, even though they tried to hit us with attorney fees to cover their costs. And he said, no, we're not going to do that today. So.
Because you went in an equitable position.
Yeah. I didn't know that then, but I do now.
Yes. Now look at the Lord's Prayer. You remember, if you look at the Lord's Prayer, did Jesus say you're to quote it word from word? No. He gave you a format. In other words, this is your pattern. Now, how you write it is up to you. But look, doesn't it say in there the exact same thing that you said? Forgive those that trespass against me as my God forgives me.
Yes. And that's the only portion we use of the Lord's Prayer. But it was sincere and it was heartfelt and we meant it. Because look, we knew we were in a no-win situation essentially. And sometimes the point of a case isn't to win the case. There are other wins that happen that aren't related to whether you win that case or not. And for us, there was a point of winning for us in that, because it released us from that burden too.
Yep.
But it also let them know, hey, don't do this again.
Look,
right?
They know the same thing that Jesus laid out. He without sin cast the first stone. They know. So when you asked what you asked, the judge is going to be like, oh, yeah, we got to do this because, we can't hold them liable. That they have to be forgiven because we're sinners too.
But it is interesting because he gave us basically a warning that saying because we came in pro se, that's why he was going to go easy on us this time. But if we ever brought anything forth like that again, he would treat us as if we were attorneys. And
because you're starting to become competent is why.
So it was funny. It was humorous to us.
When you start becoming competent, the judges will treat you like an attorney. Oh, they're of the know. They're learning. They can see. By the way, I'm working on a little short 100-page book. It might be that long. It's a reprint of a book from 1688. I'm making it easier to read and putting footnotes in it, so it's easier to understand. But it is called The Golden Rule. I shared the digital copy in this group.
Thank you. We'll look forward to seeing that as well.
Yeah, let me see here. It's called the Golden Rule, or the Royal Law of Equity Explained. So it's written from Old English, so I'm actually redoing it to where it's easier to read, and for those words that are not of the common nomenclature, they're going to have definitions in the footnotes so people can understand what he's saying. Because to me, this book right here is not a bad foundation for equity. Equity is the conscience of the legal system too. Let's see. I posted something the other day on that.
That makes more sense to me, because I feel like a lot of the people, I don't know, that I've listened to the past 11 months, give or take, set up and position everything as a very adversarial thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't need to be.
Well, who is the adversary in the Bible?
Satan.
So the law does what? Punishes sin?
Yes.
Well, how are you convicted of sin? Through the law and your conscience, right?
Yes.
So a court of equity is a forum for the administration of justice, and courts of equity are courts of conscience, and as such are not shackled by by rigid rules of procedure.
But they oftentimes say you have to follow the court procedures.
Well, they say that because in an at-law position, yes, you do. That's why attorneys have to follow procedures. They are at law.
Yes.
Okay. But in equity, you're not necessarily at law. Now you're seeking the conscience of justice, which is strictly right and wrong.
And can that be accomplished in the administrative procedure court style that we all know mostly?
Are you talking about in the courts you see that you would normally go into, is what
Yes.
you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, because why? All the judge does is put on a different hat.
Yeah.
See, that judge has to wear many hats. That's the reason why Eric was talking earlier about you have to wear many hats. Depending on how you do your name will depend on the hat you wear at that time. Are you the general agent? Well, then you sign as the general agent. Another term for hat is what is your capacity or your office?
Right. And when we operate, say, as an agent, is that always going to be in a court setting, or is it going to be outside of court as well? And I
Once
guess
you
those,
start when
yeah,
you
go ahead.
start learning how to operate as the agent, it's going to be everything.
Okay.
Because remember, that name and that trust isn't yours. The agent is what is your relationship to it? If it's not your property, then what's your relationship to it? Can you assume the role of trustee? Yeah, if you are competent enough to do it, but most people are not ready for that. And most people are trying to achieve the end goal without even getting good at the beginning goal. They haven't even got the foundation laid, and they're trying to build the house. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, it makes sense. And I think that's I feel like the end goal is kind of a false carrot that has been dangled in front of a lot of people. But it makes sense to me that everything has a beginning, and you have to, like you said, you have to start with the foundation. And it's just, I'm just thankful that we're hearing what the foundation is, where we need to start. Because there aren't many people talking about that.
No, there's not. You're not wrong. There's not. And I'm not patting myself on the back because I don't necessarily always like the position I'm in, because it's a big responsibility. You know what I'm saying?
Of course, yes, because people will listen, and they're going to look up to, and they're going to ask questions, and you and your wife have a life to lead too. I mean, you're doing this because you know that there's information that people should hear and know, so you're sharing it, and we're grateful for that. But it's also very time consuming.
Well, it's not just time consuming. It's also, if I'm wrong, the reason I have a close knit group of people that I endorse or I trust is the stuff I learn, I take to them and I bounce it off of their ideas. Because why? The Bible says you're to surround yourself with a wise counsel. And I will say, hey, this is what I see. Tell me if I'm right or wrong. Give me your input. Because why? If I'm teaching you the wrong thing and then you go do it and then you go to jail or you get in trouble because I was in the wrong, I don't really like that feeling.
Right. But there are some people that I don't think they care if they lead people down the wrong path. I mean,
no, some people don't. You're right. Some people don't. I started out listening to a lot of the same people you did. I used to follow Anna Von Reitz. I used to follow David Strait. Did I do their paperwork? No. I wasn't ready to do their paperwork because why? If I couldn't defend it, if I can't defend it, I'm not going to do it. And a lot of people rush out and do paperwork and they can't even defend it.
Well,
and what happens? They get sent to the back of the line.
Yeah.
And then they come back out of the system and they say, Oh, that's a fraud. That's a fake. No, it's not always a fraud and a fake. Some of their information is wrong, but some of their information is right. But go look when Jesus was tempted. Did the devil lie to Jesus? No, he quoted directly from Deuteronomy. Did Jesus say he was in error for what he said? No. He said he was in error on the application of what he said. But he quoted the scripture right. His application was wrong. And a lot of times it's the same with these guru communities. They're quoting the scriptures of government or the statutes and codes, and their application is wrong.
Well, that's why we've pretty much put the brakes on everything, and we're just trying to, again, when you ask people for sources or where they found that or what have you, I appreciate that you guys can actually point us to resources that we can read for ourselves, because I think that's really important.
That's my goal. That is exactly what I teach. I teach you what I learned, and I give you the sources to read it for yourself. Because why? Do I want you to necessarily always come to me? No, I want you to get to where you can stand on your own and think for yourself and say, hey, you're my equal. Why don't you teach what you've been learning tonight? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because, that's how we get better. When we learn it and then we can teach it, it reinforces what we know. Then it helps other people learn it, and the cycle just continues. And that's really good. But when people are just parroting things and they can't say it comes from X, Y, and Z and go read it for yourself, that's a problem. That's a big problem we ran into
it is.
in a lot of these communities. And so, we were but look, we take full responsibility for the things we chose to do. On the other side of that, there are people who are trying to rush people into these processes. One, because there's money to be made. Two, because they have this idea that hitting a certain number of people doing the certain thing is going to lead to an end result of this. And there's no proof of any of that being valid or true.
Well, that's also why I said, when I made that video and I was discussing profiteering gurus, okay? I'm not saying you should never pay somebody for their time. That is not what I'm saying. What bothers me is when you are one of those gurus that you're sitting there charging for your process and you're charging them $300 per person, $1,500 per person. You're pricing it out of the reach of the average person. And who are you actually trying to help? That's where my problem is with a lot of these people. They claim to have the answer and they don't. And then they charge an arm and a leg. And you know what? People rush to that and give them money, and they're making lots of money off of them.
Yeah, look, we fell into that too. I get it. And I don't have a problem paying people for their time if what they're providing is something that's actually truly going to benefit us and not just be full of pipe dreams and smoke and mirrors. So that's, those were hard lessons that we've had to learn, and we've done it, but now we're moving in a new direction and taking our time and making sure whatever we do and apply, we know why we're doing it. We know how to do it. We know that there is some writing or authority that backs what we're doing. And it's not just because somebody told us to and they claim to be the end-all be-all for whatever it is.
Yep. And I look at it the same way. I mean, I've paid people. I've been where you're at. I have. Now, y'all gonna really suck if y'all tell me I cannot park here till in the morning. Because that sign says you cannot park here till 4 a.m. Well, my appointment is 7 a.m. Why are y'all going to do that to me? Because I really would rather be here until 6. Yes, y'all are hearing me think out loud. And you hear my dog. She's all happy. Ms. Regardless. Oh, she dropped off. She dropped off at the same time I was getting ready to call her because I wanted to. Do that. John Eric Roca. I wanted to share this video with her now that I'm stopped. So now, anybody else have any questions? You're welcome, Liberty. Oh, they dropped off. Well, if nobody's got any questions, I guess I'll call it a night. Snaps, you said it's amazing. Why is that?
I'm amazing. I put amazing that I got in the group.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why. My bad.
Okay. I hope what you did here, I hope things make sense.
I guess I have a quick question for you if you have it, Chance.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So I am thumbing through online here about the right to travel freely, and I am specifically now looking at Thompson versus Smith. I'm curious about what your thoughts are about Thompson versus Smith, if you're familiar.
I don't have a problem with the right to travel, but a lot of people don't understand how to get it set up and how to enforce it. Now hold that and I'll explain. Let me talk to the guy here.
Sure. Thank you.
Hey, wifey, I see you, baby. On the right to travel, you do have the right to travel. The problem still boils down to the name. Okay. Plus,
Sure.
Look at the car is property of the state. Why is it property of the state? Because when the car was originally purchased, if you got it used or if you got it new, same thing. Somebody voluntarily transferred the ownership document to the state. The ownership document is the MCO or MSO, Manufacturer Certificate of Origin or Manufacturer Statement of Origin.
Okay, this begins to get very unique to me, I guess, now, because I went through a private party and I have an unsecured loan that I used to transfer that, and I have not registered it.
Hold on. You bought the car used, right?
Yes, sir, from a private party.
Okay. The car was bought new at one time, right?
I see. Okay, yes.
The MCO came with the car. The MCO is the true ownership document for that car. In other words, whoever holds that is the legal and equitable, has all the interest in that property. Okay?
I had no idea such a thing existed. And here, what is my bill of sale entitled in? Nothing.
You've not perfected your interest into it. Okay? You have to get the certificate of title. You have to put a notice in the paper for 30 days of anyone that has interest in the property to come forward. That means you have to identify the car with the VIN number, right? And you go get the certificate of title authenticated. When you get your certificate of title authenticated, when you get it back from the Secretary of State, because you want to send it through the mail, there's pretty sure in the files section here, there is a document called delivery receipt for warehouse goods. That's going to be your template for letting them know that you are in receipt of that document when it comes back. That's the same thing as your acceptance and acknowledgement. Okay? Now, give me 1 second here.
Yes, I'm with you, yes. Okay.
Yeah, give me 1 minute here. Food Line, they want their product, but they won't let you stay here. Let's see. Where is bills? Let's go there. So now, once you've done that and you've ran it for 30 days, then you turn around and you get the tear sheet from the newspaper. The tear sheet is the evidence of the legal notice, because this goes in the legal notice section. Okay. Now you take that tear sheet along with the authenticated copy and the acceptance letter, acceptance paper you sent with them. And then you take that down to the county recorder's office, or the same, some states call it the county recorder, some states call it the register of deeds, the same office you register property. Okay?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And you go record it. And then you get a certified true copy of that recording. Okay? And then once you get that certified true copy of that recording, then you have that authenticated and you've perfected title and interest to the property. Okay?
I see.
And then you have your completed copy of all of that you're going to make your copies from. And you learn how to do your notices. Okay? Learn how to do your contracts with the agencies to say, hey, this is my property for personal conveyance. Now, somebody told me that they actually hid the term personal conveyance, the law for that, in the vital records codes. Okay? So go verify that in your state in the vital records codes. Okay?
Okay, cool. You know, I have an affidavit recorded on my county already, which includes specified this vehicle via the VIN number in there as my property, which has gone uncontested for 30 days. Is this something that you would? Okay. Okay, understood.
Most people don't even understand what an affidavit is. Most people think if I put a bunch of claims on paper and call it an affidavit, it's an affidavit. Okay? Well, that's not exactly accurate. If you have no supporting evidence to those claims you put on paper, all you have is mere allegations. It ain't worth the ink it's printed on.
I see. Yeah, I get that too. Okay. Interesting. So you would need to also record supporting evidence with the so-called affidavit, then you would say yes?
Yeah. Look, I did a FOIA request in April to the United States Citizenship and Immigration Office and asked them for any records showing that I was a U.S. citizen. They come back and they said, we have no records. They said they checked both their databases and they had no records showing that I was a U.S. citizen. So I can actually put on an affidavit that I am not a U.S. citizen as defined under the 14th Amendment. See Exhibit A.
That's beautiful. And anybody can do this type of FOIA request, yeah?
Yeah, if they go do it right. It's not hard. Well, people say, but you have a social. I said, guess the one thing they don't ask for on their website? They don't ask for a social. They just want the name.
Interesting.
Yeah, I did the E-Verify and I asked the same question and they sent me a piece of paper saying that we don't have you down as a 14th Amendment citizen.
Or a U.S. citizen is what they say.
U.S. citizen, yeah.
Yeah.
You did a copper moonshine passport. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
What say you on some of that when in regards to U.S. citizenship, etc.?
Well, how can you be something you've never applied to be?
Yeah, I agree. Ignorance?
Yeah, because why? The states are sovereign countries. They come in union, okay? They agreed to be in union and created a foreign jurisdiction called the federal government or the United States, right?
Beautiful. Yes.
So you don't have a right to vote in a federal election. That's why they ask you to register. That's why Susan B. Anthony went to jail. She was a New Yorker. That was her nationality.
Wow.
Go read
I
U.S.
did not know
versus
that.
Anthony, 1872, and it will give you a beautiful explanation of the two citizenships.
The Susan B. Anthony case.
Mm-hmm. Also, you can read Jones v. Timmer from 1993. Now, Jones v. Timmer did get overturned in 1995, but they didn't overturn that principle that a 14th Amendment citizen does not have access to the Bill of Rights. Why? They never incorporated the Bill of Rights in the 14th Amendment.
Wow, that's incredible. Wow, I did not know that either. That's a lot. I appreciate you.
See, a lot of the things that people can be in error on what they believe and still have some successes. But a lot of the error in the right to travel movement is the lack of knowledge to who owns what. If I let you borrow my car, do you have a right to travel in it? No, you have a right to use it. That's what a certificate of title is. It's a right of use.
I see.
That's why it's called a legal title. It's not an equitable title.
This is I'm probably taking my foot and just, cannonballing into the deep end, and I have no business doing it. But is there something you'd say on an alloidal title? Is there something you can get for like a vehicle like that?
No, what I'm telling you is how to perfect title. Call it a allodial title. Call it what you will.
I see. Yes, I get you now. Yep, and I've written it down here.
A perfected title. See, a perfected title means you are the only one that owns it.
Awesome.
Now, the other problem you run into is the thing you think of as your name.
How do you mean? Because it was given, right?
No, it wasn't. No, you presume it was given to you, and yes, I'm not saying your mom lied. Your mom made the presumption she was giving it to you. But there was 3 products of conception. Can you prove which product got named? No. Your mother never declared it. She never declared her intentions.
Wow.
You have the placenta, the umbilical cord, and the baby. Which one got named? You don't know. Plus, you have no firsthand knowledge. I mean, yeah, we presume we come out of between our mother's legs, but do you remember it? Do you have firsthand knowledge? No. Because not a single one of us remember our births.
Wow, this is.
And then under the law, on top of that, it was actually it's not really a coerced situation, but it wasn't a competent situation. It wasn't a competency. There was a competency problem because why? Your mother was under so much pain and drugs to alleviate the pain. That's why the Bible says that you are of your father's seed. So your father really should be the one to declare the name.
I see. So this is a very screwy thought here, but does that mean if somebody is walking around with part of my umbilical cord to this day or some of my placenta to this day, they can have some kind of, and especially if that person was like maybe my mother, could have some kind of legal standing as me.
No.
Does that make sense? Okay.
No, the placenta isn't you.
I agree.
Okay. The placenta died. So the birth record was placed in probate.
Interesting.
I got a video on my Rumble channel that Vital Records admitted to the probate file. They said, "Yep, but we can't disclose our internal policies."
No way. That is wild. I would love to see that. I'm going to check that out on Rumble. Where can we find that on Rumble?
Well, if you find my link tree, then you'll be able to get to it. If not, give me a minute.
Okay. No, I see it right here. I can see that link tree right there.
Okay, since you got my link tree, go to the Rumble channel.
Cool. Let me see here.
Look, there's a video that's 17 minutes long. That is where I play that. Whose name is it, or is it yours? Something like that. It's not yours. Does that mean you don't have an interest in it? Yes, you have an interest in it. That's what we were discussing earlier in this discussion, is you learning how to perfect your interest in it.
In my property, so I can start. Maybe a good practice would be with my with my automobile property, and then maybe go for my biological property, and then maybe I can stand there and try to assume the role of trustee. I think I can see that progression working in my favor.
Not at first.
Probably
You're a long ways to go from that. That's the reason why I tell people they got to learn the foundation first. They got to learn the law of agency, and that's why I shared that book again. That's in the group called Gilbert's Law Summary on Agency Partnerships and LLCs. Because why? As the agent is never responsible for the principal. The mother signed a contract before you were even born. Now, this is not a 100% across the board, because some people out there knew this stuff and they had their children differently. And there are certain children that are not property of the state.
Wow. This is fascinating to me, and I'd like to talk with some of them. But so there are exceptions to the rule you're presenting.
I was online messenger at one time and talking about the birth certificate and this stuff. And this one lady, she was a foster mother. Now, she justified her stance as foster mother because she wouldn't take any children under the age of 12. She knew this stuff. When her son was born, her aunt was a big-time attorney in California and said, "Do not fill out any paperwork. We're on our way." And the attorney and a notary came to the hospital, and she did her birth records differently. And she point blank told me, she said, "This is why the state can never touch my son."
Wow, that's fascinating. And yet, I mean, so oh my, this is an interesting one. How, okay, I guess this becomes idiotic to ask, but I suppose the answer is law of agency. But how can he work? How can he contract, etc.?
You're the general agent. The general agent has all the power to do business on behalf of the principal, but the general agent has to report to the principal what they're doing.
I see. Okay. Oh, okay. And as the general agent, you pretty much supersede he would just make his own. Is that what I'm hearing you say? He would make his own name to interface with other corporations with? He'd make his own corporation?
No, you got to figure out who you are, for one. Most people don't even know who they are.
Fair.
Think about it.
Yeah.
They run around. They got a social security card, and they think that's them. Well, when did you become a piece of paper?
Hey, I have two. I have a birth certificate too.
And that is property of the state.
Yeah. So who are
You
we?
listen.
Until you
That's for
perfect the title.
you to figure you out.
It is a fascinating journey of discovery. It's this internal thing that grows. But continue. This is fascinating.
Yeah. Look, that all caps name is no different than Microsoft Incorporated. Okay.
Okay.
Earlier, was talking about it that me and my dad sat down with two attorneys. These weren't cheap attorneys. My dad paid them for the conversation so I could have the conversation. When we went over the Trading with the Enemy Act, the birth certificate, the social, and all that. And we got up to the point of the social, and I held up my social, and I said, "Is that my name?" The older attorney didn't say a word. The younger attorney said, "Well, I presume it is." I flipped it over on the back, and it says on the back, "This card is property of the Social Security Administration and must be returned if we ask for it." And I looked him dead in the eye and I said, "Now, how can that be me if I don't own it?" He said, "I see the problem."
Yeah, that's a heck of a problem.
Yeah, so it's a trust. If I create a trust and I name it Liberty 22 All, is that trust you? No.
Interesting. No, not even close.
So, I mean, well, I'm just using the name you're going by here, okay?
Yeah,
But
no, I appreciate that.
Yeah, so if I create the trust and I'm the grantor of the trust, me being the state's the grantor, the trustees are listed on the Social Security website, the state's the beneficiary. The only thing left for you to be is the registered agent. Since you don't even know who you are as the agent and you don't even know how to identify yourself, you see the problem?
Yes, but what if you? I mean, I say holder in due course of that account.
You're not the holder in due course on that account. You're the holder. Read
Because
the
I'm not perfected
documents.
into-
No, read the paper. It says you're the holder.
I see. Interesting.
You're the
See,
holder because you're the general agent.
I see. I see how long of a journey that is to become, recognized trustee if you don't even know who you are as an agent. Thank you.
Well, the agent is the foundation. A trustee is just another form of agent. An executor is just another form of an agent. A CEO is just a form of an agent. Now, depending on the type of agent, there might be different rules. But the foundation of agency is what you got to understand first.
Oh, fascinating. Okay. This is so helpful. Thank you very much. I suppose this is so elementary to you, and you drill it home probably all the time, but this is very effective and helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, it's I wouldn't say it's elementary to me. It's just it took me a long time to make this realization. As I got to the point where I started just looking at things simply as they are, not what I want them to be. And a lot of people in the movement, they look at it from the perspective of what they want it to be, not what it is.
Do you have strategy of how you did that? Because I struggle with that every single day.
Well, one of the first principles I learned was when in my early years was something called void for vagueness doctrine. Void for vagueness doctrine is a due process. It's a fundamental due process doctrine. Okay, and it's what it is. It's that every law has to be written in such a way that the common man can understand it, or it is unconstitutional and unenforceable. Now, is that principle laid out in Scripture? Yeah. When Jesus put the child on his knee, what does he say? You're to come at God as that child would. Well, I presume you have children, right?
Never blessed yours, but looking forward to it.
Okay, well, let's just imagine you do. You know some children, you know some families with kids.
You bet. Nephews, for sure. Yeah.
Yes, okay. So when you talk to your nephews and you say, well, I'm going to the store, I'll be right back. Do you want anything? And they say, yeah, Uncle Liberty, I want a candy bar. You say, okay, I'll get you a candy bar. I'll be back in about 15 minutes. What do? Uncle Liberty's getting me a candy bar. Uncle Liberty's getting me a candy bar. They don't start explaining it away and making it all complicated. No, they just say, hey, he's getting me a candy bar. Hot dog. They get excited. But we, the way our minds work, we make it complicated because we have a hard time believing that something can be so simple because we have forgotten the simplicity of contracts, the simplicity of how things have to be written. And the government publishes everything just so you can read and study and learn the rules to the game. But we don't read.
Ain't that the truth? Yes, that's very true. I talk probably twice as much as I read, and I do my best to read as much as I can.
Oh, I talk a lot because it's easier to talk while I'm driving.
That's fair. Where are you driving? Are you in the winter storm that was so crazy?
Nope, I'm not in the winter storm, thank goodness. I'm in North Carolina getting ready to deliver at Food Line in the morning.
I see. Okay. North Dakota up here, we did get it pretty good.
I figured out that Mother Nature is racist. It puts down this white stuff every year.
Every year. We got a good 3 feet of it outside some places.
I hate it too. And you know the sad part is in the wintertime, where do I stay? Up north. Normally the freight pays better in the wintertime up north because nobody wants to go.
I see. Do you have to consciously drive differently in a big rig when you're in the...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, when it's snowing, I'll do about, depending on the weather, I'll do about 45 mile an hour in the snow and just keep a steady pace.
Sure, I see.
But ice, no. If I don't see road spray and there's ice on the road, I'm parking my truck.
I see. Oh man, that ain't, yeah. There's cowboys around here. You'll see people in the ditch, just 18 wheels left and right. People go for it here.
Yeah, I know. I've been doing this almost 20 years. I am not trying to be stupid. I like going home to my wife.
I think that's good for everybody. I appreciate that.
I've driven as slow as 25 mile an hour in Virginia because of a winter storm. It took me 4 hours to go 120 miles.
Oh my.
As long as I feel safe enough to move the truck, I'll move. When I don't, to borrow a racing nomenclature, if my assometer doesn't feel right, I'm parking the truck.
There you go.
I mean,
Yep.
everybody's pretty much been driving long enough to know that when they are driving their car, you can feel what your car's doing in your seat. And if your tires lose traction, your butt's the first thing to feel it.
Yeah.
And then your stomach gets all queasy, especially if you hydroplane or something. So yeah, that's your assometer.
That's a good one. I like that one.
But no, I don't have a problem with the social and the driver's license and all that stuff. I just have a problem with people accepting the liability through ignorance.
Yeah, that does bother me. I've even been, instructed, or, somebody told me we can, remit the contract of the driver's license itself and things like this. And I'm not sure the benefit thereof, but if you've got a passport, I don't see the purpose of the driver's license, but I'm not sure either.
Well, my question is this. People run around talking about you can do this, that, and the other, but how do they know? Do they even know what it's for? And that's the part that bothers me, is when you went and got the driver's license, what do they want to see? Normally, the two documents they want to see is the birth certificate and the Social Security card. Now, why is that? Because what they're wanting to see is the name of the corporate entity, the trust.
Yeah.
And its bank account number, the social. And the address you give them is the address for the agent for service of process.
I see. So we're lost in the dark as to our role in the entire contractual situation.
Correct.
I see. It's the five monkeys with the ladder. Have you heard of that story?
Vaguely, but you might have to refresh my memory.
I will, if you don't mind. I'll do it justice here. So there's a cage. This is a, if I'm not mistaken, real scientific experiment that took place. And there's a cage. In the middle, there's a ladder, and at the top, there's a bundle of bananas. And the five monkeys, naturally, compete to get to the top. But whoever touches the ladder, they all get sprayed with water from a hose.
Yeah.
Which aggravates and frustrates the monkeys. Okay, and so nobody goes to the ladder because they've learned not to go to the ladder. They're going to get wet. They don't like it. And so they forego the opportunity to get the bananas because they don't want to get wet. Now they start taking the monkeys out one by one and exchanging them with a new monkey. And so this new monkey does not know anything about the hose. It only sees the banana and the obvious way to get it. And so it goes to make a move towards the ladder. And by the time it even so much as tries to touch the ladder, all the other monkeys actually tear him away and beat the living crap out of him.
Because they don't want to get sprayed.
Yes, because they too would get sprayed. I didn't mention that. Maybe I didn't mention that. But everybody gets sprayed with the water. And it's displeasurable to everybody. And they don't want to get sprayed and, can't blame them. And eventually, as they do this one by one, all of the monkeys in the cage are now second generation. They have not been the ones to experience getting sprayed. They just know of the tale of getting sprayed. But yet they still continue the behavior. And so this is the idea that I was relating to what you were saying about how, maybe we have lost our way as far as what our recognized role of agency. We're that second generation of monkeys doing what we're told without knowing the why.
There's actually truth in that, because this movement isn't new. My dad started off in the 70s studying tax law.
Interesting.
And He's in his 70s now.
I see.
Okay.
So new by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, this has been around. Is what I mean.
Yeah, people have been in this movement since before I was even born. I ain't talking about my dad, but I'm talking about. I've got a document from one guy that started in 1964. Okay.
Wow.
And
the things they've seen happen before their very eyes, being in the movement.
yes. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And the mass majority of the people flock to the wrong teachers. Because why? When you are ignorant of how the system is, someone with a little bit of knowledge sounds really good. Look at David Straight. Look at Anna von Reitz. Look at a lot of these. I have watched gurus pop up over 10 and a half years of me studying. There wasn't but a handful of teachers out there that I knew about, much less that I would even consider endorsing. But ever since then, I have watched people come into the movement teaching processes they learned from one of these people just so they could get people to pay them. And they say, oh, yeah, I know the process. I can get you free and get you out and this, that, and the other. And people flock to those people. And they will spend all kinds of money with those people until they have been used up by that person. And then that person that paid all that money out of frustration goes to the next person, pays more money. There have been people that have paid tens of thousands of dollars to multiple different people because they're not reading what the government publishes. They're reading what every Tom, Dick, and Harry publishes.
Yeah. It's a very familiar tale, what you're saying. It's striking near and dear to my heart. I'm emerging right now from the Anna von Reitz rabbit hole, and there is some great things there, and there is some stuff where I'm not sure how to take it, and it's humbling.
She's a fraud.
There you go.
She's a fraud. All it took was one phone call with her for me to know she's a fraud.
Can you enlighten me as to how that went, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I asked her one question, and I was sincere when I asked it. I said, ma'am, can you help me? She said, what do you need? I said, I like the things you say, but I have one problem. She said, what's that? I said, you say you're a judge. Can you explain that to me? And instead of explaining it, she yells and screams at me. I said, ma'am, you've told me everything I needed to know. Have a good day. Click.
Wow, that is fascinating. I am. Oh boy, that doesn't make me feel good. Okay, so that's
State National and American State National people run from them. David Straight says a lot of good things, but he mixes it with a lot of bad.
On purpose?
Honestly, I think both of them do it on purpose.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Running people the wrong way on purpose. There's no excuse for that. It's such a terrible thing. Well, anyway, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, well, when you got people paying you a bunch of money and you're that invested into it because it's your livelihood, what do you expect?
I see. Okay. Well, that should be corrected by people who offer something else. And I think that something else is getting more exposure every day. And so well, thank you for your honesty here. Thank you.
Look, most people out there like David Straight and stuff like this, they talk about the government the United States is a corporation. And I was guilty of saying the same thing. And is it wrong? No. But is it right as it's being portrayed? No. There's 3 United States. You got the first United States of America, which is the 50 contiguous states united. Then you've got the second United States of America, which is D.C., its territories, and insular possessions. And then you have the United States. Under 28 U.S.C. 3002, paragraph 15A, it does say the United States is a federal corporation. But does it mean that it's always a corporation? No. Under Title 15, you have the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. People have tried to use that against the IRS, and you can't. Why? Because the 14th Amendment plainly says you cannot argue the public debt. But they never read what Chapter 176 is under Title 28. Title 28 is the Judiciary Act. That is the rules the judges have to follow. Chapter 176 is the Fair Debt Collection Procedures Act, which is Section 3001 through 3308. Well, 3001, what's next? 3002, paragraph 15A. So when the United States is operating as a debt collector, yes, it's a federal corporation. Does that mean it's always a federal corporation? No.
Interesting. Just as I am not always acting as the agent. They are offered 3 facilities as well. I see.
Yes.
Faculty. I get it.
You go into court and you say, that's my name. Well, where's your evidence? They'll let you volunteer. You want to be the liable party? Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
You know, voluntary servitude is still legal in this country.
Yes. Finding that one out by the hard way, too.
The what?
The hard way, I said.
Well, the 13th Amendment isn't law. The 13th Amendment is merely a restatement of the law or public policy. Because the Northwest Ordinance is the law.
This would be
the Ordinance of 1787.
Wow.
The
Never
Ordinance
even
of
heard of this thing.
That's right. The organic laws of the United States are first the Declaration of Independence, then the Articles of Confederation, then the Constitution. No, take it back. No, then it's the Northwest Ordinance or the Ordinance of 1787. Then it's the Constitution of 1789 and the Bill of Rights. That's your organic laws. But then you also have the Treaty of Paris, 1783. Because we didn't win the Revolutionary War. There was a truce, a ceasefire. The Treaty of Paris, the king kept property over D.C. and its territories. In other words, it's still owned and ran by Britain. But it was placed into trust. That's what the Declaration is for. The Declaration of Independence was a declaration. It was a trust indenture.
Wow, interesting. Holy cow.
But in the Treaty of Paris of 1783, if you read Article 1, the states were declared sovereign. That's where the people got their sovereignty from. Because there was a truce. There was an agreement made. Because why? The Revolutionary War bankrupted the states, and it about bankrupted the king. The king said, "Hey, we all said neither side can continue this war." And they called a truce, and the king agreed. They agreed because why? The people wasn't going to give up.
Wow.
The people said, no king but Jesus. We're sovereigns. We are free. Guess what happened? because they were placed in bankruptcy under Chapter 11, Article 4 of the Articles of Confederation kicked in, and all the bankrupt estates, we've been under emergency ever since.
Mhm.
And because of the emergency and us not doing what we're supposed to do, the emergency has continued all these years.
Is that the Lieber Code, or is that part of that?
Well, the Lieber Code was because of the emergency, because the Civil War bankrupted the United States again.
Yes, I've heard that these events are taking place to divert attention from those bankruptcies, but
No, they were there to settle the debts.
I see.
Because war is what? War is health of the state.
What? Excuse me? You cut out a little bit. What was it?
I said, what is war? War is the health of the state.
Oh, goodness. Okay. I thought that was what you said. I wasn't sure. The health. Health.
Yes. That's
boy.
actually a legitimate and real quote. How does the state settle certain debts? Through war.
So it's interesting what's unfolding right now in Ukraine, etc., right?
Well, go read Proclamation 2039. Proclamation 2039 was what got us where they amended the Trading with the Enemy Act and the banking and created the Banking Relief Act, right? Which eventually led to the Social Security Act, the Trust Indenture Act, and all these other acts that created this trust we're all have in our possession.
Oh my! What a bonkers pathway! Oh my God.
But here's the problem: the emergency that's going on. It's not that they're bad for doing it. The problem is this: because you don't recognize it and don't realize it, if we don't stay in the emergency, retrocession happens. In other words,
that doesn't
retrocession, retrocession is when the land is returned to the original owners because they were not fulfilling the purpose of what it was set up for.
Wow. So who would be considered quote unquote original owners in that contractual basis? England and France and Spain, or what?
Some of it, yes. Some of it was to the Indians, some of it to the Moors, some of it to France, some of it to Spain.
I see. Yeah, the original owners, period. I get what you're saying. Interesting.
Yeah. See, retrocession is a real thing. There was a recent court case in California, I think in 2021, don't quote me. A black family, their land was seized through eminent domain out in California on the coast. Well, it was
Manhattan
seized
Beach.
for I don't know, that might be it. I haven't
Yeah, it
found
was
the
Manhattan
case yet.
Beach. Yeah, it was
Okay.
Manhattan Beach.
And the government never did what the purpose of the seizure was declared for, which was for development. All the government had to do was put a small park on the land, and the family could have never got it back, but they did nothing with it. And retrocession kicked in, and the courts gave them the land back.
Wow.
And retrocession is a ancient legal principle.
Retrocession. Interesting. Mm-hmm. What are we looking at? Is there a sort of backwards going clock for the next retro session happening?
There is no next retro session. There hasn't been a retro session for the United States. Because why? We've been in an emergency ever since. But the worse things get, the greater the emergency is, which means the greater the rules become harder.
Oh my goodness.
Remember, the New Deal was the last one. The New Deal did what? Got rid of all the gold and silver?
Right.
What are they getting ready to do? They're getting ready to change the banking system.
Yeah, you send that wrong tweet and you don't get to have the same amount of groceries next week, right? Is that where we're going?
Well, I believe that the crypto and blockchain system is going to end up becoming the mark of the beast.
Yeah.
And if you believe in what the Bible says, it says in the last days that it'll take a day's wages just to have a meal.
Wow. I think, oh no, that's. I have some thoughts on crypto. I, for some reason, am pretty privy to the idea of Bitcoin specifically, as opposed to these government-owned digital coins, etc. And I think that Bitcoin might be something we could probably network with each other as a sort of peer-to-peer.
I don't see Bitcoin as this big old private thing as you think.
Okay, fair.
I don't.
Because
I mean,
ownership being
I can't remember the guy. I can't remember the guy's name. He's one of the billionaire elite. He's very, very crass in his language. But
I wonder is that Dan Pena?
Yes. Yes, Dan Pena.
Okay.
He has said if the people realized who created Bitcoin, they would sell it all overnight and the value of Bitcoin would go to zero. And I take him serious. Because why? You know, the billionaire elite, they know where the bodies are buried.
I see. Okay. Yeah.
But watch what they do. That's why I have a little bit of XRP. Right now, it's not the mark of the beast. So, yes, I have some XRP. But there's going to come a time where I'm going to get rid of it. And right now, 2025 is what I'm looking at based on my research.
You like the ISO 22 or whatever, the 20022 coin things that those speak to you pretty well?
No, I just watch what they do. Follow what they do. XRP is one of the chosen coins for the banking system for cross-border payments.
Yes, and I actually have a list here. So it would be HBAR, this would be Hedera also, and then XLM, Stellar, and then, I mean, I'm not shilling, I am just highlighting the ones that you're talking about specifically for other people to do the research. And so I'm interested in some of those. There is another one, I think it's called IOTA. Anyhow, check some of those out if you guys are interested in what he's talking about how they are going to change the banking system. And we do have this unique opportunity right now to sort of ride the wave, I think is what you're saying, right?
Well, right now, I don't know for sure if it's a unique opportunity or not. Because right now, there is no sense. It makes not a darn bit of sense why the cryptocurrencies are so low. And they're staying there.
Yeah. Yeah, they usually pop in December if there is activity. I've noticed that as being historically what Bitcoin has done, like in 2017, etc. And I think 2020. There's some. Yeah, I get what you mean. It's kind of like remarkably dead, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, when King Solomon, one of the guys on YouTube I used to follow, when he said that crypto would get back down to 30 cents, I didn't necessarily believe him. But he said that it would go to, when it got up over $1, and then it said, and he said it would go back down to 20 cents, and then it would jump back up, and then it would go back down to about 30 cents. I didn't believe him. The 20 cent, yeah, okay, I saw that. And then he said, I told you all the while that it would go back down to 30 cents. I didn't believe him. And sure enough, it did. And it's been down in the 30s ever since. And I'm like, it makes no freaking sense.
I'll jump in and share my 2 cents here. I'm sure we all have opinions. XRP is owned by the Rothschild central bankers are major owners of XRP, XLM. The Clintons were the spokesperson. Bill Clinton was for XRP a while back.
Oh, yeah, I don't doubt any of that.
And Jeffrey Epstein was involved in launching Bitcoin, coordinating with MIT. And it's all a pedophile. It's pedocoin, basically. So I issue caution out there in the crypto world. It's backed by nothing.
Neither is a Federal Reserve note.
Well, by the faith and credit of the United States, which is very thin ice at best. Silver and money are the only real money per the Constitution, and it's artificially suppressed and manipulated. So I'm placing my bets accordingly.
Well, actually, some of your arguments I understand. I just don't agree with your synopsis, and here's why. A lot of people have made the argument in the early days that Bitcoin, you should never use it because it's used for all this nefarious stuff. Bitcoin's neutral. It's not evil. People use it for evil. Has child trafficking been going on since before Bitcoin? Yes. What were they using then? Cash. Do we get rid of cash because of that?
No, and crypto's on the blockchain, and everything is tracked, every transaction. So people who think it's private and secret are fooling themselves.
Now that is true. That is actually a true statement. That is the problem I have with cryptocurrency.
It was,
but now,
then you haven't heard of a mixer.
I want y'all to I'm going to share my screen, and I hope y'all can actually hear this. And if you can't, please speak up. As soon as it loads, because if you don't see that all these coins are definitely being set up for the control of the masses according to the mark of the beast, this guy is, I would say, he's sold out to crypto. He really believes it's a good thing. But look at this graph. Come on now. Why ain't it playing? Well, shoot, let's do it this way.
Is this what's his name? Crypto Mason?
No, he goes by Calvin on TikTok.
I do remember this video. Okay.
I do believe that the central bankers are setting XRP, XLM to be the global cryptocurrencies.
Now watch.
Hey, ST, you cut out on my end. Do you mind repeating what you said?
I'll repeat while I'm watching. Yes. I said I do believe that XLM XRP will be the central bankers.
Hold on, y'all. Hold on, just watch.
Okay.
There's no sound.
I'm noticing no sound also.
So we'll just have to read. Speed read. Headlines.
We can't hear what you're trying to show us, Pastor.
Y'all couldn't hear none of that?
No.
Nope.
Video.
And for some reason, maybe it's because I'm on it, it won't play it. But y'all can play the video, and he goes over showing exactly how it all ties together.
Ties together to what? To make the beast system, you mean?
Yeah. Go.
Would you like me to?
If you can play it and make the sound play, please do.
All right.
Let me stop my share screen so you can share yours. Hit that down arrow. There you go.
I'm going to screenshot this shit. Hedera.com/council. Let me slide down here and see. Hedera is owned and governed by the world's leading organizations. Calvin, can you please tell me who's on that list? Sure, no problem. Avery Dennison, Boeing, Chainlink Labs, which runs Chainlink and all of its oracles, okay? Denton, IBM, Google. Look at this LG, Ubisoft, Swirl, Standard Bank. This crypto right here is owned and governed by the world's leading organizations. And it is ISO 20022 compliant. Who's paying attention? You might want to screenshot this. Right. Now, how do all of these things work? They all work through Quant. Quant is the boss. It has an overledger system which operates like Apple's iOS, but this is iOS for the blockchain. I'm going to say that again. This is like Apple's iOS system for the blockchain. Can you break it down for me a little bit more? Sure, I can. Here is Quant. Quant is a software, and their Overledger operating system talks to all of these things. You cannot run your life today or your business without one of these being a part of it. That is 100% fact. You cannot run your life today or your business without running into one of these payment APIs. Google Pay, Apple Pay, Amazon Pay, PayPal, Stripe, Samsung, Walmart, Venmo, Swift. I'm gonna double tap that one again. Swift. This runs that. Blockchains. That means layer ones, layer twos, and even layer zeros like Polkadot.
And
who's paying attention?
Listed.
Constellation DAG is right here. Y'all don't even know what Constellation DAG is. Let me remind you. Look what it is right here. Look. Constellation DAG, proof of reputable observation. Y'all don't know what that means. I'm going to break it down for you in layman's terms. Watch this. Pay attention. This, by the way, because y'all like to read, like stuff like Perez Hilton and Bossip and Shade Room. I read stuff on NASDAQ, Fortune, and Forbes. Constellation Network to provide U.S. Air Force with blockchain security for data sharing. Oh my God. Anybody ever heard of the U.S. Air Force? They're using the Constellation DAG network to provide security for their data sharing, man. Who's paying attention? Who's paying attention? This software right here talks to all of that stuff. It is this right here. This is the only blockchain that has a relationship and a freaking contract with the U.S. government. Constellation DAG, which is right here. Enterprise blockchain, banking APIs. I just explained to you how JP Morgan is moving into the metaverse. They already have a virtual bank in the metaverse. They're now filing a trademark patent for crypto wallets. This banking API and all of these talk to Quant. Quant talks to all of Internet of Things. That means the APIs for those of you trying to create new technology. Hey Siri, okay, all of that. Okay Siri, and Alexis, do this and that. Those are all Internet of Things APIs. This controls and runs all of them. Who's paying attention? So everything is attached to Quant. Quant goes out here and talks to XDC. That means it talks to JP Morgan and Chase. TriFi, it talks to Algorand. It talks over here to Internet of Things. That means CBDCs. That means central bank digital currencies are coming, and this is going to be part of all of that with the Internet of Things. It talks to Constellation DAG, the only contract with the United States of America. It goes over here and it talks over here to Hedera Hashgraph, owned and governed by the world's leading organizations. And it's over here with IBM and Google and all of that. Talks to Stellar Lumens, who has a deal with MoneyGram, already moving money worldwide. The Hyperledger system and the Interledger system with Ripple and its technology with XRP. Who's paying attention, man? Y'all tripping.
So, if that don't answer the question on the mark of the beast, nothing will.
Fully agree to that. That's the central bank solution.
I still don't agree that Bitcoin is exclusively used by the. I think that one can be used to. As like cash can, right?
Yes, but you saw Bitcoin was part of the list of coins that are under Quant. You saw the video. But when he got to that section, Bitcoin's on that list.
I see. So that would be Quant is the operating system. However, I've never needed an operating system to send or receive Bitcoin, only an address.
You have that's part of the operating system. It's all part of the blockchain. What did the World Health Organization say the new currency would be? Blockchain. Why do you think they are actually changing the UCC? And they're adding Article 12 to the UCC for digital assets.
Fascinating. Interesting.
Here you go. Here you go. You can read the changes for yourself.
I do want to kick back at just another quick challenge on this that I do believe that Bitcoin is the original blockchain and as such would not be under anything else. And so having
Not
direct
according
access
to
to
him.
Bitcoin, we could then just do commerce just exclusively through the Bitcoin. So I got to discover how Quant, I agree. His opinion is compelling. But I do need to do some more research because my experience has been if I have got a non-custodial wallet, I'm not under Quant. I'm just exclusively sending and receiving the assets independent
Yeah,
of
but you
of
don't
my
know
phone.
how Quant is tied in the background. Now,
Fair.
the
That's
only
fair. And I don't know
there
100 things
ain't
about.
there is only a few coins out there that are actually considered private. One of those coins is called Cloud Coin. Have you heard of Cloud Coin? Not many people have.
No, I've heard of Monero for the privacy idea.
No, you
What's
need to.
Cloud?
The Cloud Coin is the only one I know of that is not tied to the blockchain at all.
I question its efficacy at that point, but continue.
I'm not an expert at Cloud Coin. It's the only one I know that is not tied to blockchain. Even Monero is tied to the blockchain in some way, shape, or form.
Yes,
So
and
was
that's what
Pirate
makes
Coin. And if it's tied to the blockchain, it is not 100% private.
I see what you're saying. Okay. You should do, I recommend doing a little more research on what a mixer is and does with blockchain assets. But I do think that the nature of blockchain makes it superior to other forms of transactional record keeping in contracts. But like a shovel, anybody, or any kind of tool, anybody using it for any kind of thing can make it any kind of, evil or good, right? I think that it can be used for good, and so this is my challenge. That's all.
Now, I do agree that not everything is bad. Just because it's there doesn't mean it's always bad. But you got to realize something, that just because it's there doesn't mean it's not there for your benefit. You should know that by now. Look at how the system has been working all these years.
Could you run that by me again? You said just because something is there doesn't mean it's there for my benefit or not there for my benefit. How did you say that?
Yeah, because why? Go look at the New Deal. When the New Deal happened in 1933, was it necessarily for our benefit?
I think it was entirely for their benefit.
The bankers, yeah.
Hell of a deal.
When they get this new system in place, no matter how much they make it sound good, is it going to be for your benefit?
I get it now. Okay. The people that came out with the New Deal were the people that held on to their gold.
Yeah, but Jesus said what? That Satan is the god of this world. Lucifer. You should already be questioning its benefit for you if that's the god of this world.
Good call. Yeah. Dang it, that is tricky. Oh boy, yeah. Good point. That makes me question every benefit of natural existence then, right? I mean at a certain point we do have to enjoy and
I'm not saying you shouldn't. Yes, but that's why we talked about equity earlier. Even though it is what it is, even Satan has to follow certain rules because the creator is the one that established those rules. The problem is he's not going to let you free if you don't know them.
That's right. So are you sort of suggesting that even though they are doing this grand, change, they're going to leave a path for the sovereigns should they choose to educate themselves?
They have to.
I agree.
Revelations 18, come out of Babylon, my people, so you don't take part in her plagues. So guess what? If God says to come out, they have to leave you a way out.
Yes. That is the breath of fresh air that I personally was leaning into. That's
the Bible,
nice.
even the principle is laid out in the Bible. It says what? Narrow is the path to salvation. It says broad is the path that leads to destruction, and there's many that find it. Narrow is the path to salvation, and few that find it.
I see.
That's why the mass majority always constantly flock to the wrong people, because broad is the path that leads to destruction. It's the easiest path to find.
Interesting. Yes, this is helpful. Interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
If you don't mind, what was the book on agency? One more time, the title that I could look up. This would be my homework.
Just scroll up a little bit in the group. It's not too far up.
Oh, it's here. Okay.
Yeah, it's Gilbert's. It's called Gilbert's Law Summary on Agency Partners. It's right there.
Yeah, 4:06 Central Time.
Come again, partner? What was it?
The timestamp on it is 4:06 Central Time when he shared it.
17:06 Eastern.
Roger that. Got it. Well, thank you, all. I think I'm going to head out and do some homework. This has been very enjoyable. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. That's what I'm here for.
Be well. Take care. God bless.
You too, sir. Okay, Cat, slow down. Let me fix your food. So, next questionnaire. If anybody has one, that is.
Good evening, Pastor, to the rest of the panel. It's my first time here. Thank you again for allowing me the space to join you all.
Dr. She.
I must say that I'm just starting, I guess. I have a lot of resources to check out, but as I'm sure you already know, it can be overwhelming. Having discernment. Definitely have to have some type of discernment, because this it again can be challenging. So I just wanted to know, either from yourself or anyone who's already had the experience or fair share, where would one like myself start over at?
The book I just told him to go read.
Okay, great. I just downloaded it. Okay.
Yeah. So look, before you read the book, you gotta come to a realization of a few things. Okay? And it's not much. One, that name you use, who owns it?
Not I.
Okay, if you don't own it, then the next question is who does? And then the next question after that you got to answer is, what is it? And then the final question is, what is your relation to it? See what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So once you figure that out, everything starts falling into place.
Okay. So I'm going to write those down. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The Social Security Trust, that card, they tell you they own it. If you call Vital Records, the birth certificate, they tell you they own it. Well, if they own it, that means it's someone else's property. And how does that apply to you? Well, if it's someone else's property, you can only hold a few different offices in relation to it. We know it's a trust because that's what Social Security is. We know you're not the grantor because for the majority of people, it was made at birth, and we don't have any firsthand knowledge of anything. So you're not the grantor. The Social Security tells you who the trustees are, and based on the trustees is where I get the presumption of the state being the beneficiary, because you don't have any evidence you're a beneficiary. So the only thing you can be is the agent.
Wow.
Then the question is how did that agency come to be? And that's because it's an implied agency. It's implied based on all the evidence and the inferences and deductions of all the evidence in that specific situation. Well, what's the evidence? They own it all, right?
Correct.
Okay, so if they own it all, then they gave it to you to operate as the agent. Now the question after that is, which agent? General agent, special agent, or universal? Well, it's not a universal, because a universal is similar to an express agency, which means it's by contract. But if it's an implied agency, you can be the general agent.
Okay. Would make perfect sense.
Well, the general agent has all the ability to operate the business that's in front of them on behalf of the principal, go out and create those notes, those securities, the mortgage, the car note, the credit cards. They create, but you created it in the name of the trust, because you put the name, you put the social and all that stuff, right? So now that makes it property of the trust, and the agent's duty is to report to the trustees who they're issuing the credit to.
Oh. And just so I can make sure I have clarification, when you say the agent has to report back to the trust, that would be myself when I'm doing the application?
You're doing the agents, right? You're the agent. The trustees are the principal.
Okay.
Every year they tell you to do what?
File those days.
Yeah, but you got to learn how to do your accounting and
Mhm.
filings properly.
Okay.
Because the agent is never liable for the principal. The only time the agent ever becomes liable is if the agent doesn't do their duty.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay. Light bulb.
Another reason why you're not the beneficiary, because one, my buddy Tim, he's in this group. He pops on when he's here, there, and everywhere. He called the Social Security Administration one day and asked them. He said, "Am I the beneficiary of this account?" They said, "Oh, yes, you are." He said, "Can you send me that in writing?" "Oh, no, we can't. You're going to have to go to your local Social Security Administration office." So he did. Asked them the same question, got the same response. Oh, and then they turned around and said, "Well, why do you need it?" "Oh, for my records." They would never give him any proof that he was the beneficiary. And then later they said, "Well, you're not the beneficiary yet because you're not old enough." That means someone else is the beneficiary right now. So the only office you can hold is the agent, which means if you're the agent, you need to learn how to do the accounting and record keeping and proper reporting so you are not the liable party. Now, back to what I was saying when I started the beneficiary, because liability falls this way. If you're the agent, you're not liable. The principal is, unless the agent doesn't do their fiduciary duty. Then the agent is liable. If you're the beneficiary is never liable. unless the trustees don't do their duty. You know, you want to see why you're not the beneficiary? Because they don't
Yes,
want you
sir.
to sue them.
Mm.
Because if the trustees are not doing their duty, then that means what? They're liable, not the beneficiary. No, move. So now you see why you operate in that role?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And if I could ask real quick, I know you're saying things that I need to operate properly. The record keeping, the accounting, and what was that third one, Pastor?
And reporting.
Reporting. Okay.
Yeah. Because when you issued a note, did you do your ledgering properly to record it so you've got your evidence if anything ever comes up?
Mm.
See, you were the issuer of the currency when you did the mortgage note or the car note or whatever. That note was the investment that you made, but you did it in the name of the trust, but you're not reporting it to the government that you issued the credit.
Wow.
So how can the Treasury or the trustees ever balance the books for that account if you don't report it?
And can I ask, is the 1099 one of the ways of reporting it?
Possibly.
Okay. Okay.
But personally, if you go look up IRS publication 901,
Hmm.
the way it reads, you're not even supposed to be using their forms. You're supposed to create your own.
Oh, wow. And that was according to what? I'm sorry. Could you say that reference again?
IRS publication 901.
Okay. Publication.
Because why? If you're not going to be in their system, should you be using their stuff?
Absolutely not.
Right. Now, that doesn't mean you don't study the laws and the codes, because those things apply to them. But you got to learn how to do your own accounting and your own ledgering and everything. It's a lot to learn. It's not something that's coming overnight.
Definitely appreciate the information. Is this something that you do on a regular? Can I catch you all just sporadically?
I'm a sporadic person. I drive a truck for a living, so I get on when I'm in the mood. It's not like it. I go through spells where I'm on here 2, 3, 4 times a week. Stuff like that.
Okay.
Hello, wifey. I see you. My wifey's jumped in.
So if we have any other questions or concerns, is this the best way of communication to reach out? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Pastor. I appreciate it. And hello, wifey.
Hello. Can I get you a drink?
Sweet tea, no lemon. So, well, I am going to tell everybody good night, and I'm going to get off of here.
Wait a minute, Pastor.
Yes, sir.
I want to know, have you listened to Boris's jurisdictional?
I don't know yet. Give me a minute.
Have you listened to his jurisdictional recordings yet?
Not in their entirety, but I don't. But Boris is also in this group, so we've talked about it, and me and Eric has actually talked about territorial jurisdiction. I'm fairly familiar with territorial jurisdiction.
Man, you got to listen to them, man. I'm telling you, that's where it's at.
Never said it wasn't.
I mean, territorial jurisdiction is everything. They have no territorial jurisdiction over us.
They do if you consent.
Yeah, exactly, but if you don't, they don't have any jurisdiction over us.
If you go in and you claim that's your name when it's theirs, they do, because now you're trespassing on their property.
Right. I know what you're saying, but
you got to realize that territorial jurisdiction, they created 12 Social Security zones. They created an overlay over the states, and they had the right to do that. Okay. So I am familiar with the territorial jurisdiction. Me and Eric, or Cite Your Authority in here, have discussed it numerous times. The 1956 and 57 report on jurisdiction with a federal jurisdiction. What's the proper name? It's jurisdiction over federal territory within the states. I've got both of those books.
But you gotta look up what the state means. What does state mean? Look up what state means.
There's multiple definitions, just like there is multiple definitions for the United States. You got 3 different United States. You got the United States of America 1, which is the 50 contiguous states. You got the United States of America 2, which is DC and its insular possessions and territories, and then you've got the United States, which is the federal corporation under Title 28 U.S.C. 3002, paragraph 15A. Jax, I'm familiar. Trust me.
Man, you got to listen to all them territorial jurisdiction tapes he has.
And Boris, I've got a video where we had a very good discussion on it in my saved folder. Boris is in this group.
Is he?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that guy's got it down pat, I think. As far as territorial jurisdiction, they have none.
Nah, I don't agree. I'm not saying they will never have it. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
But we will talk about and continue this later. I'm going to say good night.
All right. Good night, brother.
Talk to you later.
All right.
Bye.